Let's see. I always love this type of music because it's very much a Bloodborne didn't make the cosmic horror genre, but it definitely helped define it for a lot of gamers who didn't know it existed.
As I'm finishing the Eldritch DLC for Borderlands 3.
Oh, that's right. Borderlands 3 had that. Hey, I gave
Was
you
it called
food.
Love, Guns, and Tentacles?
Oh, yes. I also got me some waters for this. Hope you guys are gonna be good for with hydration. Stinky. And we'll just go ahead and put the cover right here. Ooh, booga booga booga. Strut's so spooky. And hi. Oh no.
Yeah, I think they said there's still two more books that they're gonna be revisiting old settings or whatever.
Mm-hmm. I know. I think that's the thing because, you know, in the beginning of fifth edition, there were a lot. There were locations that were in mention but never really explored fully. I want to say when they started really doing that was like more out of the abyss area, because in Out of the Abyss you can really understand that like the Underdark is its own ecosystem with its own civilizations that exist in it. Waterdeep was a really good example of like a fully fleshed out city, and with a Descendant to Avernus, you get a feel for what it is to go through the first layer of hell. Which, finally this next session, the Saturday players will finally be going into hell. I can't stress the finally part. They've been going
Yeah,
through dungeons.
we've been stuck in dungeons this whole time.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
yes, where
They
they
can
belong.
finally say hello to Tiamat.
Right. Yes. Also, hi. In case you're wondering, we are currently live. We're just waiting out the timer. I hope you got yourself some hydration.
Yep.
Hey, pasta. Oh god, this shit is good.
I was just saying this pasta's bussin'.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Oh shit.
All right. Ravenloft music. All right. This is gonna be good. I'll close these down for now. And 2, 1. Welcome everyone back to what should be the Thursday nights, boys. But due to unforeseen circumstances where one of them is actually heading out of town, we have decided to fill in and give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek. Where on Friday we would have been doing our nerdy talk, so this week it's 2 nerdy talks. And with the idea of covering multiple topics, I went with the second highest voted one, as tomorrow we'll be going over with the first highest voted one, growing up gaming. But a topic that I really, really did not want to miss was going to be going over the new book, Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. And so, just as usual, we have a nice audience here, as well as some guests to help us out. Starting from the top of the order, we have Rogue, who you would all know as Dura from our Saturday games.
Hey, y'all.
We have Mex, who you would all know as Hallie from our Monday games.
Hello.
Skittles, who you'd all know as Dell and My Lover from the Saturday games.
Howdy.
And Hive, who you'd all know as Twig from the Tuesday games.
It's everyone's favorite cat person, but I own 3 dogs.
Yes. And so, today we're going to delve into Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Already, what are some expectations you guys have going through this book, or maybe some things you're excited to see?
It better be edgy.
The bag man, that's what I'm here for.
Oh man. And how about you, Skittles?
Sorry, I can't right now.
All good, all good. Well, here. I always like starting off these book readings with going through the disclaimer, as this is where the little bit of the heart of the funny comes around. Disclaimer: by the sole act of opening this book, you would acknowledge your complicity in the domain-spanning conspiracy that denied me, Azillan Rex, Wizard King of Darkon, my rightful place as both author and cover model for what could have been so much more than this doubtful collection of lies and slanders. Fortunately, as I have recently found immortality unburdened by the trivialities of rule, I have endless opportunity to pursue through vengeance for even the pettiest affronts. Please prepare for my coming. I expect to be quoted in the utmost comfort while we personalize your redefinition of the word horror. And so we delve in, as this book is going to be unleashing the horrors of Ravenloft in this campaign sourcebook for the world's greatest role-playing game. Nice, good introduction as far as understanding how this book is going to be used. There are overall sections of this book. Section number 1 is going to be focused on our character creation options. We're taking a look at 3 new races that were introduced from Unearthed Arcana, 2 subclasses that are introduced from Unearthed Arcana, as well as what's going to be something called Dark Gifts, another way to kind of customize your character. That's not exactly a feat, not exactly a boon, but somewhere where like the DM and the player can come to an agreement of, hey, you want to take this nice little boost? Be aware, there's a little bit of a catch to it. Chapter 2 is by far one of the most interesting ones for me. It's going to be how to create your own Dark Lord and your own custom domain for this Dark Lord. But you must be asking, what is a Dark Lord and a domain? Well, Chapter 3 is going to give us plenty of examples of that Chapter number 2 will help define further. Chapter 3 is a list of quite a lot of the domains of dread. I can't stress this enough, there are a lot of them, and each of them has their own personality and their own Dark Lord that runs through it. So rather than doing a deep dive on each of the individual domains, we are just going to go ahead and see a nice skimming of them, at least see what the domain is known for, maybe some noteworthy features of it before moving on to the next area. And one that's going to be really good for a lot of DMs, which is how to use new sets of tools to really make your horror-themed campaign fucking scary beyond belief, regardless of whatever level the players are at. It's going to be nice to be able to take a look at that. And finally, we'll wrap it up with chapter number 5, which is just a nice detailed look throughout all the things that this book has offered as far as stat blocks, from creatures to NPCs to maybe even some of the locales that we'll go further into. And when in doubt, this book, for everyone wondering, it is horror themed. If that wasn't stressed out enough, part of this is going to be understanding how to make your campaign not only scary, but not to the point where you are going to be breaking people's boundaries. There's a difference between terrifying someone, and there's a difference between scarring someone. We're looking for the scare factor, not the years of therapy you're going to be causing after. So, we are going to be taking a look over at character creation. We are seeking haunted heroes, the new lineages, subclass, dark gifts, subclass options, changes to backgrounds, as well as horror trinkets. And What a beautiful start to this. This is a pretty well detailed image right here. I think that you could even get this as a nice poster map. But taking a start, let's see, know your fears, evil inside, habits of horror heroes, focus on the game, limit your comedy, play your fears versus character fears. It's very important to get to know that. Consent is priority, always. Know what is too far, add to your own terror, and enjoy the struggle. I know I'm doing a little bit of a skim, but that's because there's a lot to go through in this book. And starting off with our lineages. I know we had addressed these a while ago in our player creations, but there have been slight altercations to it. First off, let's take a look at the Dampier. I believe all of us already know what the Dampier is going to be including. So when it came down to its dark vision, its speed, the spider climb, all of that's still the same. There's one change to all of these, and one change in particular to the Dampier. The Dampier now has deathless nature, which is the fact that they do not need to breathe at all. They'll still need to eat, sleep, and drink, but breathing? Nah, I can just say no to that. But the one that is going to be added to all three of them is the Ancestral Legacy, which is, if you replace a race with this lineage, you can keep the following elements of the race. Any skill proficiencies you gain from it, any climbing, flying, or swimming speed that you gained from your previous race. But if you don't keep any of those elements or choose this lineage at character creation, you gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice. So, right off the bat, what are your guys' thoughts just from those changes? One of which is going to be affecting the others moving forward, and the other which is the lack of breathing. Any thoughts? Maybe this helps you envision how you want to play up and add to your own Dampier in your character creations.
Trying to put wings on everything. Every lineage gets wings.
Yes. I think what was it before? One thing I definitely am thinking of is just now let's make Eric Cockgrove Dampiers so we can get all that flying speed. And no need to breathe. I want to fly? Well, too bad. Well, here. Hexbloods, I also, side note, I really fucking love the actual images.
No breathe. You could always just drown, drown a person, but then oh, I don't need to breathe. I can just hold you down here till you stop.
Right. I also like the imagery that they're adding to this. I'm pretty sure we all had a good idea of what a Dampier was, but when people heard Hexblood, they had no idea what to really, envision. So, here's a good way to look at the Hexblood. Once again, it is supposed to be like an heir to the hags. You can even see here's a Hexblood infused with the Sea Hag, Green Hag, and Annis Hag, all just chilling around their cauldron. You know, hag talk, just hag things. And the Hexblood traits, everything in here is actually still going to be exactly the same. This is one of those ones that was untouched after the surveys through Unearthed Arcana, except for, of course, the Ancestral Legacy, which is affecting all of them. And I want to say the Reborn was definitely one that, the visual here surprised me, because I totally forgot the idea of replacing limbs with, I want to say more ghostly appendages that are still physical without adding too much craziness to your own character. And everything here is exactly the same as you would imagine. I think... Actually, hold on, wait. There's one thing that they removed from this. I just realized that. Reborn, you are humanoid, no matter what. You are not undead. You are not a construct. Interesting.
Yeah, that was different when it was UA playtest stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
you are both.
A lot of it was because if you're undead, technically you could be turned.
Mm-hmm.
So they were just you're kind of undead, but you're not an official undead. I guess that's what they went with.
And I think the same thing with constructs, because there's some spells that just straight up don't affect constructs. Not only damage spells, but healing spells too. Interesting as well. I also, scrolling up a little bit further, the Hexblood is only Fey now. They are not humanoid and Fey. And let's take a look. The Vampire is only humanoid. So definitely Dampier is only humanoid, no undead at all. Changes that while they don't make sense from, let's say, like a lore perspective, from a gameplay perspective with the way the mechanics of 5e work, it makes that much more sense. But I mean, to each that. We've all, I'm pretty sure, all have had our thoughts on the races for some time now. But here, this is a chapter that's really gonna be cool. Dark gifts. These are a way to make your character more interesting, per se. Characters who don't have a dark gift might gain one in the course of their adventures. At the DM's discretion, sinister forces might contact the character and offer them a dark gift in return for some service or future favor. If a character already has a dark gift, accepting such a bar can cause them to lose their current dark gift in gain of a new one. So you cannot stack dark gifts. That's really nice. The offered dark gift might manifest in a dream, in a moment frozen in time, or when the character is alone. Typically, only one character is aware of a bargain, its terms, and whether or not it was accepted. The DM might have the mysterious force intervene in such the following case. Darklord will negotiate the party if the character seals the deal by accepting their dark gift. Time stops when the character is on the brink of death. A mysterious voice offers to save the character's life, but only if they accept this dark gift. An experiment or magical accident gone wrong, the DM allows a character to accept a dark gift or some other peril as a result. A character breaks a vow or suffers a curse, gaining a dark gift as a result. A character touches a mysterious amber sarcophagus, and a force within entreats them to accept its influences in the form of a dark gift. All cool ways to give them, but now let's actually take a look at these.
I really freaking love the the concept of them is amazing. Like, cool, I get something, and then you're like, oh wait, no, oh no.
Exactly. So, echoing soul. Your soul isn't your own, or at least it wasn't always yours. Whether you've lived past lives, your soul was swapped into a different body, or you have a link connecting you to another being. You experience echoes from another life. These echoes grant you knowledge, talents, or even languages you can't always explain, but they also intrude on your perceptions and beliefs unexpectedly. So, roll on or choose an option below. Additionally, you can also just gain the traits. You gain the traits that follow. I'd imagine you could always, talk to your DM more about like how to play along, so long as it seems similar enough to the way the echoing soul is. But here are how the soul can echo. My soul is linked with that of a person elsewhere, perhaps another domain, world, or plane. I have lived many times before, my soul reincarnating each time I die rather than passing on. My consciousness was removed from my own body and implanted in this one. I was physically and spiritually merged with another being. I share my body with an intangible otherworldly force, or time fractures around me, and I sometimes collide with my own past or future. Very cool ways to explain the echoing souls. And here are the cool things. Channel prowess. You automatically gain you gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice, and you can speak, read, and write 1 additional language of your choice. However, though, intrusive echoes. Immediately after you roll a nat 1 on an ability check, attack, or a saving throw, your soul memories emerge and overtake your perceptions and experiences. You might see people around you as someone other than who they are, or you become disorientated by a double experience of the world around you. So then you would roll in the intrusive echoes table below. It's a d6, and on a 1, you're charmed by a creature up to the DM's choice that you can see for up to 1 minute or until the creature damages you. 2, you're frightened by a creature you can see DM's choice for 1 minute or until the creature damages you. 3, you perceive another time or place around you until the end of your next turn. During this time, you are blinded to your actual surroundings. 4, you perceive a different time or place overlapping your surroundings. Your speed is had until the end of your next turn. 5, memories and sensations overwhelm you, and you are incapacitated until the start of your next turn. And 6, your memory is one of triumph. You can now re-roll the ability check, attack roll, or saving throw you just made, but you must use the new roll. So, I like that the intrusive echoes right off the bat has a potential chance to be good, 1 out of 6, but the other 5, pretty bad. Can be pretty bad. What do you guys think?
No,
I really like it. I feel like it really fits with like ours and then Saturday's group because we're dealing with demons, they're dealing with devils. So
Mhm.
it makes sense
And
that
devil and
if we
everything
got a
between.
gift, it would have a downside to it as well.
Right. I think one of my favorite things is you know me. Every time I hear something, every time I see something, like a meme pops up in my head, and I like to think like you perceive another time or place, or you perceive a different time or place, or maybe your memories and sensations overwhelm you. Is just the fucking meme of Mr. Krabs, like the fucking world shifting around him.
So it's a very PTSD thing. And you can flavor your characters such that way too.
That reminded me of the Spider-Man
There we
meme.
go.
So you just perceive everyone to be you.
Yeah, it's crazy. The Echoing Soul, I want to see who would take that if offered a dark gift, because for the most part the benefits are primarily skill and language based, right? So I could totally see a bard taking this because the bards are already proficient in expertise with so many skills. If they're given dark gift, it's just so much more that they're good at. Let's take a look over here. Gathered Whispers. You are haunted by spiritual beings, whether the souls of the departed or entities from another plane. Their voices endlessly whisper, taunt, or cajole, sometimes rising to unearthly howls. Only you can perceive the spirits unless you allow them to speak to you, through you. Your spirits are intangible and invisible, and anyone who can see invisible creatures sees only fleeting glimpses of the spirits as they haunt you. Roll or choose an option. Additionally, you gain the traits that follow. So, 1. A council of my dead ancestors watches over me. 2. Fiendish presence vie for my soul. 3. You unquiet souls are drawn to me and beg for peace. 4. The spirits of those I killed linger around me. 5. An alien intelligence intrudes upon my thoughts. And 6. A sibling I don't have shares my body. I'm gonna quickly, before I go over to those traits, I'm thinking the spirits of those I killed linger around me. Oh no, the murder hobo party. Someone who actually could see invisible creatures is like, what is that? My past.
Be fun for DM too if you had a player like that. You could easily just sit there and talk shit at them the entire time too. You're like, oh, is that you killed me by doing this, and you're gonna do that to that person? I am disgusted.
Right. But here.
Aren't you dead? Why the hell are you?
Let's see. Here's some of the traits though. Spirit Whispers. You learn the message cantrip if you don't already know it, and it requires no components to cast it. When you cast the spell, the messages are delivered by one of your whispering spirits rather than you or the target's voice. You can choose Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma when you gain it. Sudden Cacophony. When you're hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to channel your haunting spirits, letting their voices howl through you. If the attacker isn't deafened, add your proficiency bonus to your AC against the attack, potentially causing it to miss. Once this trait causes an attack to miss, you can't use this trait again until you finish a long rest. And the negative, of course, Voices from Beyond. Immediately after rolling that one, it's pretty obvious where this is going to. The haunted voices grow too loud to ignore. Roll on the Voices from Beyond table. Once one of these effects occurs, none of these haunting voices manifest again until you finish a short long rest. And so this is a D4 table. 1. You have disadvantage on the next ability check, attack roll, or saving throw you make. 2. You're deafened by the voices for 1 minute. 3. You're frightened of the creature closest to you other than yourself until the end of your next turn. If multiple creatures are closest, the DM chooses which one you're afraid of. 4. For the next 10 minutes, you can ask your spirits about the results of a specific course of action that you plan to take within the next 30 minutes. You can receive an omen as if you had cast the augury spell. The omen manifests as whisperings from your spirits, perceptible only to you. So, nice. I really do enjoy this whole, like, I got a nat 1. Oh, here we go. Is it gonna be the one number I'm looking for? Fuck. So here, just going through one by one, what do you guys think of the gathered whispers so far?
Oh, talking shit about dead people? Shoot, sign me up.
Yes.
I kind of like it because I like all of these in general because they add like something extra for nat ones besides, oh, you missed really bad.
Mm-hmm. as it is, there's a lot of DMs who try to use fumble tables to also kind of add into this. Like, I'll make it especially for me, I'll just like, if an opponent's close enough, I'll give them an opportunity attack if they were the one targeted. But it's just giving more to nat ones is nice because nat ones just innately just usually mean misses, and because nat 20s have such a big deal, people want nat ones to mean a little bit more. But here's one that I've been looking forward to. You can already probably guess some character ideas of this, but Living Shadow. The shadow you cast is animate and ever present, even when lighting conditions would otherwise prevent it. Your shadow occasionally moves out of sync with you. Sometimes it appears to be undertaking random but mundane tasks, while other times it acts out your darker impulses, threatening or even attacking other shadows. With effort, you can bend this shadow puppetry to your will. Roll on or choose from the options below. So, 1. My shadow often holds weapons or bears wounds that don't exist. 2. When I'm distracted, my shadow panics and tries to get other people's attention as if it's desperate to escape me. 3. When I'm not being watched, my shadow makes threatening gestures or creeps towards people. 4. My shadow's movements mirror mine incorrectly. When I raise my left hand, the shadow moves its right. 5. My shadow fiddles with or occasionally breaks tiny non-magical objects. And 6. There's a slight but noticeable delay between my movements and those of my shadow. And so here are the traits that you get for this. Grasping Shadow. You learn Mage Hand if you don't already know it, and it requires no components to cast it. The hand created by the spell is shadowy, but it's not bound to your actual shadow. It's Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma you choose when you gain this gift. 2. Shadow Strike. When you make a melee attack roll, you can increase your range for that attack by 10 feet. Your shadow stretches and delivers the attack as if it were you. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. And, of course, here's the negative. When you roll a nat 1, your shadow exerts a will of its own and might assist or hinder those around you. The next time you or a creature within 30 feet of you that you can see does ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, roll a d4. If the number is odd, reduce it by the number rolled. If the number is even, increase it by the number rolled. And once this effect occurs, it can't happen until a short rest or long rest. Meaning, notice how this doesn't specify allies or enemies. So it could buff enemies, it could hurt enemies. Just that it could buff allies or it can hurt allies. Who knows? But, right off the back, thoughts on the Living Shadow?
I think this would be one I would take. Simply, just hearing the negatives made me want to take it.
Right.
If you're ever doing a My Hero Academia, I know I'm gonna pick the Shadow quirk.
Oh, nice! I could see that. And then what would you want to be going with? Like, you would probably want to be playing a class that like the subclass that plays to your shadow ability more, right?
Yeah, but that's all. I'm probably gonna be weak against Radiance.
I can imagine doing this, taking this and taking the Echo Knight Fighter, and now your Echo has like a personality of its own.
Ooh, yeah, you know what? Good point. Shit.
There's also like Shadow Sorcerer who actually has the ability to like summon, who like controls shadows and stuff. So it's really cool to think of it like that. Maybe that's how your Sorcerer's origin started, and that's like the dark gift that was offered. And let's see. With that, let's move on over to Mistwalker. The mists grip all who tread the domains of dread, but you know how to slip through their grasp. You can navigate the mist successfully, even given enough time and a little luck. But this freedom comes with a price. If you remain in one area for too long, the mist find you and drain your life force. Roll on or choose an option below. So, 1. You learned a secret about the nature of the mists. Ever since, you can manipulate them, but the lands you walk have turned against you. 2. You fled into the mist to escape someone or something that's hunting you. You can never rest for long, knowing you're still being pursued. 3. You're part of an organization, a family, or an itinerant community with experience traveling the mists. They taught you how to do the same. And 4. The mist stole you from your home and fractured your memories from when you were born. You've been on a quest to find your way back ever since. And so, right off the bat, you get Misty Step. It doesn't require a spell slot, and you can only use it for free once per long rest. It's using intelligence, wisdom, or charisma when you gain this. And if you have a spell slot of second level or higher, you can cast this spell using those spell slots as well. Mist Traveler. This one I'm gonna say, if you guys aren't playing a very domain-based adventure, this one's probably not gonna be too enticing for your player. When you enter the mist intent on reaching a specific domain, you're treated as if you possess a mist talisman key to that domain. To use this trait, you must know the name of the domain that you have chosen as your destination, but you don't need to have previously visited that land. This trait does not allow you to bypass domain borders closed by the Dark Lord's will. So, this one is... here, I'll quickly round it up. Poisoned Roots. When you finish a long rest, the world around you in a 10-mile radius becomes a siphon that will eventually leech away your vitality. You can remain in the area safely for a number of weeks equal to your Constitution modifier, minimum of 1. Thereafter, each time you finish a long rest in that area, you must succeed on a DC 15 Constitution saving throw or gain 1 level of exhaustion that can't be removed while you're in the area. This one's one that's interesting to talk about. I feel like this one, the main thing you're getting from this is the Misty Step once for free once per day and the ability to like learn it. I think the Mist Traveler is just... It sucks if you're not playing like a domain-based one. Like I'd imagine the homebrew world, I probably wouldn't use this as much. Maybe to kind of give the player a little bit more to work with, I'll probably make a few domains of dread. But if the campaign isn't centered around that, Mist Traveler kind of sucks. Hence why Poisoned Roots I think is not that big of a detriment. It's a 10-mile radius. Oh, you're stuck there for a number of weeks, aka 1. That's like 8 long rests. Most players can move on within the amount of time in a homebrew world. And in a campaign, most campaigns, unless it's like... even then, like, Curse of Straw technically could take place within, like, a week or 2. And any other campaign actually has you moving far enough away where 10 miles doesn't really mean a lot. What do you guys think?
I kind of like it.
First off, no spell slots, so that's a good thing. Travel long distances. Well, after like a long rest, you should be fine. But
I feel like just so far, this one's probably going to be the least taken one.
I like this more for like backstory wise, to say you came from the Mistlands or you traveled through them, that's why you have this. It's more than like, oh, I actively am going to be using this.
You know what's funny? So before I like ended the homeworld, I never thought to consider that the Shadow Isles is just a domain of dread. That would make a lot of sense for it. So that would mean that you could easily travel through the domains of dread using this. Let's see. All right. Here, let's head on over and take a look at the second skin. There's another side of you that most people never see. When you show this side of yourself, you might become another person entirely, a celestial-like avenger or a walking nightmare. Whatever specifics of this form, it exaggerates some drive or hidden nature within you. Let's take a look at the table. The second form is an exaggerated version of your own form, a hybrid form of humanoid and beast, an angelic, demonic, or apparent form, a vaguely human-shaped creature made of slime, a fey-like shape, either brooding or passionate, or a body constructed of metal, stone, or machinery. And so, let's take a look at these perks. Transformation. You can cast the Alter Self to appear in your second form. When you do so, you gain the side effects of the spell's change appearance options and cannot change appearance options and cannot end it to gain the benefits of a different option. Casting Alter Self in this way requires no spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can cast it this way again. It's either Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, and if you have spell slots second level or higher, you can cast the spell with them. When you cast Alter Self using this feature, some cosmic aspect of your second form remains after the spell ends. This visibly marks you unless you actively hide or disguise it. The mark is a perceptible change such as scaly skin, stunted wings, eyes without pupils or horns. The mark fades after you finish a long rest. Involuntary change. Certain circumstances can affect your dark gift. After you experience this catalyst, at the start of your next turn, you must succeed on a charisma save. Or you use your action to cast Alter Self as described in the transformation trait, even if you have already used it. Roll on and choose an option from the change catalyst to determine what triggers your involuntary change. 1. Seeing a particular phase of the moon. 2. The smell of a certain type of flower. 3. The sound of ringing temple bells. 4. Hearing a particular melody. 5. Touching pure silver with your bare skin. 6. Seeing someone resembling a specific individual. Alright. Going into this, already right off the bat, I don't know how many of you are gonna like think of this one, but this makes me think of a launch from like Dragon Ball. What do you
Just have like a random trigger.
Yeah, well, like launch's trigger in Dragon Ball was whenever she sneezed, she would go from the sweet, gentle launch to "Who the fuck are you?" Pulls a gun out of nowhere.
It's funny because in DLC I was playing, there's a guy who would turn in. He like his mentally he would turn into a piece of cardboard, so he would be stiff and couldn't move. If you said the word geography.
Wow, that's kind of funny. So like, imagine taking this whole like form aspect, and let's see. It exaggerates some drive or hidden nature within you. So it's not necessarily like an alter ego. It definitely is like something that the character wants, but it's to the point where like it's exaggerated. The drive is exaggerated to the point where like you're gonna like, fuck this. I'm gonna get what I want done. Versus your more standard, oh, I'm just kind of doing whatever.
We're gonna take off right now. We're gonna wing stop.
Okay.
So we're
This
taking-
would be interesting.
you
Like a
anything,
couple
or-
sessions in.
Did you guys already order?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Oh, did you want something?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Nate would text you or not. Okay.
Nothing.
No, come here. Come
Yeah, that's
on,
okay.
Nate.
Just close the door. She comes back up here eventually. No, like when you guys leave, just like leave her.
Oh,
She comes
she's
back up
fine.
here eventually. Yeah.
She's fine. Okay.
I'm sorry. What was that?
I kind of like it. Like once a few sessions in, once you kind of know the personalities of the people, see how they play their characters, and then have that be the drive. So like if someone's really into killing people, have there be a trigger that like really brings that out of them.
Mhm.
Or someone who's really like into taking like healing people, it just like makes them want to heal people even if they're healthy.
Yeah. This could also here another thing about this. So let's say for example the catalyst is very important. It also is one of those things where as a for DMs out there, remember, you either gave this dark deal or your player chose to have this dark deal for a reason. Whatever their catalyst is, bring it up. If let's say you're trying to like do a random encounter table, make this one of the random encounters where their catalyst can be triggered at some point during it, and it could be triggered like as like a morning thing, a night thing, or an afternoon thing. So there's always a chance that like the person's going to be having to force to pull out their alter ego self and practice a little bit of roleplay that way. But if nothing's more to be said on that, let's move on to one that I very much am so fucking... It's so close to beating Living Shadow for my favorite dark deal. Symbiotic Being. A second being resides within your body alongside you. It manifests physically somewhere on you and relies on you for its survival. At the same time, it offers you knowledge and other assistance, either of its own volition or because of your own intertwined nature. The symbiote has its own personality and agenda, which might be at odds with yours. If you ignore the symbiote's desires, it might strive to interfere with you. There is no way to be rid of the symbiote while you have this dark gift. Even if you go to drastic lengths, such as severing the part of your body where the symbiote resides, it reappears in your body in another location at the next midnight. Then let's take a look at the table. Tiny humanoid facial features protruding from your torso, palm, or the back of your head. An alien appendage inside an unhealing wound. A burrowing worm-like being. An intrusive thought that inhabits your mind. A living tattoo. Or a crystal growth that replaces a portion of your body. Let's take a look at the traits below. This is a pretty long one. Entwined existence. Your symbiote is a separate entity with its own physical form bound to yours. It isn't a separate creature and relies on you to survive. It has intelligence, wisdom, and charisma scores. The DM sets this just like any character who's making stats. Roll 46, drop the lowest number. And the symbiote can see and hear using your senses. The symbiote speaks, reads, and understands 2 languages, one that you speak and one that makes sense for it to speak. And choose one of the following skills. Your proficiency in that, you gain proficiency if you don't already have it, representing the symbiote's counsel and guidance. And if you die, so does your symbiote. If you are subsequently returned to life, your symbiote revives as well. Sustained symbiosis. Your symbiote has a vested interest in your survival and takes steps to reassure it. When you fail a saving throw, you can choose to have your symbiote expend one of your hit dice to roll it and add the number rolled to your saving throw, potentially turning the failure into success. If you use this feature on a death saving throw, you succeed on the save and regain 1 hit point regardless of the number on the d20. Once you use the saving throw, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. And symbiotic agenda. Your symbiote has an agenda that drives it, and it expects you to assist it in achieving those goals. How permissive or patient it is in resolving this agenda depends on its personality. Work with your DM to determine these details. If you have an opportunity to advance its agenda and don't act on it, the symbiote can try to force your hand. Make a charisma saving throw. The DC is 12 plus the symbiote's charisma modifier, or be charmed by the symbiote for 1d12 hours. While charmed, you must try to follow the symbiote's command. If you take damage that is not self-inflicted, you can repeat the saving throw, ending the effect on success. Roll or choose from the symbiotic agenda table to determine the symbiote's goal. And then, here's the agenda table. The symbiote seeks to destroy a specific type of being, such as fiends, trolls, or paladins. 2. The symbiote craves knowledge and is determined to solve a mystery or learn a secret. 3. The symbiote wants to bring a prophecy to fruition or thwart one. 4. The symbiote seeks to defend themselves in interest of a powerful being or organization. 5. The symbiote wants to keep you from harm at all costs and believes it knows what's best for you. 6. The symbiote seeks to experience new sensations. The more bizarre, the better. And so, what do you guys think of the symbiotic being?
I think it's super interesting.
It's not
Vein.
I might consider it for the
That's fucking
homebrew
great.
world.
I want Venom.
Okay, hold on, wait.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. Let me hear Hive.
I might consider it for the homebrew world. I kind of like. Well, I mean, I think of Parasite when I think of that, obviously, but like,
Mm.
I don't know. I like characters that like have like this weird fucking like just. I don't know what to call it. I don't know.
It's like a second creature that's living with them.
Yeah. And like I like characters that like have split personality, but also have that fucking like symbiote on them, so it's like just constant like noise
Mm.
in their head all the time, 24/7.
And then what were you guys saying, Rogue and Skittles, or well, whoever wants to say it?
Yeah, go ahead, Skills.
Skittles.
Skittles has exploded. Okay.
Here you go. Rogue, what were your thoughts on it?
I was saying, forget what I said about the shadow quirk. I'm taking the symbiote because every time I'm thinking about it, I think of Venom or Migi.
Right? Oh man, I can't not think of Venom when I hear about this thing. I think if I were to pick which of the symbiotic agendas it would make sense, I kind of want to see it's kind of the symbiote wants to keep you from harm at all cost, and it's like, no, don't go into the dungeon, it's dangerous, but I have to, it's for the quest, and I say no. You make a charisma save, and it's like, sorry guys, I can't do it. The DM's making me not go down there.
See, for me, it reminds me of the main character from Shadow of Mordor, because he had the elf spirit attached to him, and it would force him to do things and disapprove of his actions if he didn't do what he wanted.
Right, that's right. Oh man, the symbiote has a lot going for it. I think it's kind of this whole like, notice. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly say this: the ability to bring yourself back to 1 HP on a death save is so fucking cool. Like, that is so nuts that, like, Yeah, you could use this to boost your saving throw by whatever your hit die is, be it a D6 to a D12, depending on your class of choice. But regardless of what was rolled on the 20, meaning even if you rolled a nat 1, if you use this ability, you can just say, "Nah, I'm just getting back up with 1 HP." Ugh. Giving your cleric or your bard or your paladin that extra turn to come and save your ass. And because of the way this sounds, it says when you fail a saving throw, you can choose. You don't have to. You could to like give your party that much more time that they need to get to you. You could fail the first two, succeed the next two, and then like on the last one you're just, "Nah, I'm just gonna get back up. I'm gonna do it now." What was it? It's the okay, here we go. Burrowing worm-like being, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Take a fighter with the samurai subclass, maybe give him a little bit of assassin, and now you have Sekiro. That's the same symbiosis. I come back from death.
No, an even better one. It's Fry when he ate that egg sandwich, and he had the worms that were repairing his body.
What was oh my god, when you say that, it reminds me of the did any of you guys watch Mr. Meaty growing up?
Yes.
I think we
God.
all know what I'm about to reference, which is the fucking the tapeworm that was in his body, and it would like eat his food whenever he tried to eat it.
Absolute nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Mr. Meaty was a weird show. Okay, here. This one.
I'm saying nothing was weirder than Xavier Renegade Angel.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
This one, before I go into this, is really powerful. I'm worried that, okay, this is not my personal favorite, but I'm worried a lot of players are going to take this for how strong it
I'm
is.
about to abuse the fuck out of this. Yeah,
Okay.
I know what you're about to talk about.
Touch of Death. Your touch
Yeah.
is pain, harming who you come in contact with. The deathly power within you is beyond your control, afflicting any who touch your bare skin. By the same token, you can deliver death to your enemies with your touch. Roll on or choose choosing the table. Here we go. Your body is alchemically or biologically altered, infusing you with deadly chemicals. 2. The magic of a slighted druid or a fae makes small plants wither and insects die in your presence. 3. You're the harbinger of a grim prophecy. Any creature your touch damages is marked with a temporary scar of a group fiend, deity, or other force that takes interest in you. 4. You survived a near-death experience, but shouldn't have. Ever since, death and ill omens follow you. 5. You are out of sync with time or reality. Anything you touch is warped by the distortion. 6. Every time you touch a creature, you hear the laughter of someone you once harmed. And so, the traits that come with this: Death, Touch. You can focus your deadly touch against your foes. As an action, make one unarmed strike. On hit, the target takes an additional 1d10 necrotic, which bumps up to 2d10 necrotic at 5th level, 3d10 necrotic at 11th level, and 4d10 necrotic at 17th level. Inescapable Death. When you hit a target with an attack roll and deal necrotic damage, you ignore the target's resistance to that damage. And Withering Contact. When you start your turn grappling a creature or are grappled by it, the creature takes a d10 of necrotic damage. So, I'm just going to start this off. I'm not going to be surprised if I see a player who takes a monk. Way of the Long Death monk is probably going to be the way that goes, but realistically, any monk will work with this. And take Touch of Death. It is going to be so fucking strong, and it's going to be so hard to balance for DMs because you're like, oh, I can just make creatures that are resistant to necrotic. I bypass necrotic. What do you guys think?
What this instantly reminded me of was Rogue from the X-Men.
Yeah. When I heard
Anyways,
this,
get ready.
oh no, get ready
Yes,
for your fucking monk.
Definitely doing that in the homebrew. Yeah.
Just play one of the androids from Dragon Ball, the very first ones that came out, the ones that when they grabbed them, they stole their energy.
Guys, I think you're all going about this wrong though. Number 2 literally says The magic of a slighted druid or fae makes small plants wither and insects die in your presence. Do you understand? Timmy's mom has the touch of death.
Oh god.
Everything I touch dies!
Take that quick step
Look at,
back.
like, just like fucking Quinn got mad one day and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna fuck up this person's life." Real
Oh,
quick.
man. This is... It's a really strong one. Okay. And one that I have not read into at all. Watchers. Something is always watching you and draws ethereal spirits that take the form of a creature made of shadow stuff, usually in the shape of tiny beasts that follow you and gather in your general vicinity. These creatures act like normal examples of their kind, but their behavior suggests a hint of malice. No matter what precautions you take, you can't permanently drive these spirits away. They always return. Wait just beyond the reach of deterrence, or later crawl out of your clothes and equipment. Roll on or choose an option from the Watcher's table below. 1. Carrion Eaters. Jackals, ravens, vultures. 2. Inescapable Judgments. Animate tools of punishment, drifting eyeballs, religious iconography. 3. Nightwings. Bats, moths, owls. 4. Plague Carriers. Fleas, rats, squirrels. 5. Unnatural Observers. Animate objects, clockwork devices, otherworldly voyeurs. 6. Sea skulkers, crabs, eels, jellyfish. 7. Stray souls, ghost orbs, shadows, ectoplasmic wisps. And 8. Venomous vermin, scorpions, serpents, spiders. I already know someone's gonna ask this, and I wouldn't be surprised if Skittles asked if there could be just cats that watch her.
You mean cats of Ulthar are a thing.
Exactly. Just like having like all these like cats that are just waiting, watching you, judging you. And so, borrowed eyes. As an action, you can influence the presence, guiding the watchers for 1 hour. For the duration, you have advantage on investigation, wisdom and perception checks, and you can't be blinded. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. And dead presence. You have disadvantage on deception, performance, and persuasion checks made against any creature who can see the watchers, and you have disadvantage on saving throws made against the scrying spell. You can temporarily disperse or hide the watchers with some effort. With 1 minute work and a successful animal handling check, you can suppress your borrowed eyes and dread presence for 1 hour. Once you successfully suppress these features, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So it's this is a pretty big one. I think the borrowed eyes might be good to use. I think this dark secret is this dark gift is more going to be used for flavor than it is actually going to be used for it. And it's going to give the player an excuse to, look, I know I like these creatures, but I need to make them go away so I don't fuck up my party's deception check. So, like, can I please just tell them to go away? What are you guys' opinions of the Watchers?
I like them for like the parties who like collecting creatures, because then a shadow form or like a clone of that creature would appear, but whenever they get close, it just disappears to like freak out the party.
Right. We just need to add a whole category. No, we can just do the stray souls. So instead of the ghost orbs looking like ghost orbs, it's just like creatures of the alleys. So it's like what was it? Possums, raccoons, and cats, and they're just all like looking.
Oh, it would be even weirder if they take the form of the party.
Oh no! Oh, that would be weird. Like little miniature versions of the party. Wait, you know what would be another good one for the Watchers? I'm trying to remember the name of this, babe. You would probably know. The name of the creatures that are in Princess Mononosuke. The little like.
Oh, the Kodama?
Yes.
Those are more like Chewingas, but yeah, the Kodama would be really good watchers.
Yes. This is gonna be great.
Flavored as Chewingas. There you go. Little horde of Chewinga.
And so those are all the dark secrets. Before I move on to the next area, just what are your guys' opinions on the dark gifts? Do you feel like these are something that like are going to be must-haves for your characters, or do you feel like their negatives are going to outweigh the choices for other characters? Maybe, or Redia, do you think all characters should take a dark gift?
I don't feel like they're like you need to have it if you want a good character, but I also feel like they're not so bad that if like one was offered, you would instantly turn it down. Like there is like some of them have really good benefits, with the downsides kind of being bad, but not unmanageable.
What about the rest of you?
I feel like some people would choose Dark Gift over their primary choices, but I think it's just all up to the person that there's one that either what they want to choose. But I'd say I would go for the Dark Gifts.
Mm-hmm.
I think it it definitely caters toward a certain type of player
Yeah.
that understands that I think understands and likes having, I guess, downsides to like their characters,
Right.
like mechanically
Especially the
and all that.
symbiote. I'm taking that.
I think definitely
Yeah,
because
I
you
think
know
the product-
there is a world like we are catered to that specific crowd, but there's definitely a crowd of people who are like really in love with the goody two shoes stuff, and just the idea of taking a dark gift just from the principle alone doesn't sound good to some people. But I mean, fuck, these are just really cool to like envision to me, because I'm always a big fan of like the occult and scary things and like making deals.
Some of them seem definitely. It seems like they're catering towards certain classes. Like, I can only really see like the necrotic one being used a lot with monks because, in my opinion, monks don't do enough damage. They need to do more damage.
I could see it working with the new subclass for warlock they put, because you increase the damage, necrotic damage you do.
That is true. That is very true, actually. Okay, so
Oh
there
Oh
are.
god, we're not there yet, but I'm so excited.
I know.
That
We're,
freaking new class.
I know. We're about to be there. I definitely want to like add into this, just quickly as a note on the touch of death. Yes, it does look like it will pair perfectly with a monk. Warlocks, yes, but let's not forget, while monk can be a pretty good like hand-to-hand combat, let's not forget that they literally added an entirely new fighting style. So like
Yeah.
barbarians, paladins, and fighters can now all do unarmed fighting, which is a D6 if you have like a shield or a weapon in one hand, and if you're completely like unequipped, it's a D8 of punching at level 1.
Oh yeah, that actually reminds me, because I made a psychic boxer rabbit folk, so this would actually work pretty well with them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, you might be one. The main reason why I brought up the UA is because the next part is going to be about the subclasses, Bard, College of Spirits, and the Warlock Undead Patron. I'm bringing up the UA so we can kind of do a side by side comparison to see what was changed, and let's talk a little bit about why things were changed up. So, starting on the UA side of things, we know for a fact that the Bard's College of Spirits gains the ability to reach out to spirits to guide you. You learn the guidance cantrip, and it doesn't count against the number of bard spells you know. It's for you, it's a range of 60. Let's take a look. Guidance, range of 60. Super good. Spirit focus. You can practice contacting spirits and employ special tools. You can use the following objects as spellcasting focuses: candle, crystal ball, talking board, Taraka deck, or a skull. And at 6th level, when you cast a bard spell that deals damage or restores hit points through your spiritual focus, roll a d6 and add the number to one roll. Let's see. Same thing. D6. Boom. Spiritual focus and guiding whispers. Now here is something that is going to change it up, because I know for our Sunday group we do have a Bard College of Spirits. They have entirely renamed and redone the entire D12 of Spirits Tales. So I kind of explained that they did. Because it's a bit long, I'm not going to go over each individual one. I'm just going to completely explain the new list. So, for those of you who are unaware about the Bard College of Spirits, as a bonus action, you can pull a tale from beyond, and you roll a d12. That's the tale that you pull, that you get, whether or not it's from your crystal ball, your seance, or your tarot deck or such. Regardless, you roll a d12 and that's the tail you get. This ability that you pull from your bonus action can then be applied as an action. Until you apply it using an action, it stays with you either until you use it or until you re-pull from your Tales of Beyond ability. And so, Bardic Inspiration Die number 1. It is now Tale of the Clever Animal. For the next 10 minutes, whenever the target makes an Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma check, the target can roll an extra die immediately after rolling the d20 and add the extra die's number to the check. The extra die is the same as your Bardic Inspiration. 2. Tale of the Renowned Duelist. You make a melee spell attack against the target. On hit, the target takes force damage equal to 2 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier. 3. The Tale of Beloved Friends. The target and another creature of its choice you can see within 5 feet of it gain temporary hit points equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier. 4. The target can immediately use its reaction to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. When the target teleports, it can choose a number of creatures it can see within 30 feet of it up to your Charisma modifier and immediately use the same reaction. 5. Tale of the Avenger. For 1 minute, any creature that hits the target with a melee attack takes force damage equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die. 6. Tales of the Traveler. The target gains temporary hit points equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die plus your Bard level. While it has these temporary hit points, the walking speed increases by 10 and it gets a +1 bonus to AC, so it's a mini haste. 7. Tale of the Beguiler. The target must succeed on a Wisdom save or take psychic damage equal to 2 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die, and the target becomes incapacitated until the end of its next turn. 8. Tale of the Phantom. The target becomes invisible until the end of its next turn or until it hits a creature with an attack. If the target hits a creature with an attack during this invisibility, the creature it hits takes necrotic damage equal to a roll of your Bardic Inspiration die and is frightened of the target until the end of the frightened creature's next turn. 9. Tale of the Brute. Each creature of the target's choice it can see within 30 feet of it must make a strength saving throw. On fail, a creature takes thunder damage equal to 3 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die and is knocked prone. A creature that succeeds on this saving throw takes half as much and isn't knocked prone. 10. Tale of the Dragon. The target spews fire from its mouth in a 30-foot cone. Each creature in the area must make a dexterity saving throw, taking fire damage equal to 4 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die on a failed save for half as much on a successful one. 11. Tale of the Angel. The target regains hit points equal to 2 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die plus your Charisma modifier. And you end one condition of the following effect on the target: blind, deafened, paralyzed, petrified, or poisoned. 12. Tale of the Mindbender. You evoke an incomprehensible fable of an otherworldly being. The target must succeed on an intelligence saving throw or take psychic damage equal to 3 rolls of your Bardic Inspiration die and be stunned until the end of your next turn. That was a bit to read. I want to hear about your guys' thoughts on the new table and the fact that they've, instead of just labeling them beast, warrior, friends, and so forth, now it's the tale of so forth. What do you guys think?
I think this one, I want to say for the most part, it was really buffed. Like they either increased like the damage you did, or some of the stuff was now they're stunned or
Incapacitated, yes.
I want to say overall it was they did really good for it.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest one was the incapacitated one and the angel. This is a bard who essentially has greater restoration as soon as they get this if they roll an 11 on their die. That's what's fucking crazy about this. What about the rest of you? I'm surprised we're not hearing from our resident bard here.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Sorry, walking out the door.
It's okay.
No, I've always been excited. You know how excited I was. I pushed our Sunday guy into doing college experience. Like, go do this. It's super buff bard and it's freaking poggers.
Here, taking a look, going back to the comparison. Spirit session. You channel spirits and gain insights into magic. You conduct a 1 hour long ritual using your spiritual focus. You can conduct a ritual with a number of creatures equal to your proficiency bonus, including yourself. At the end of the ritual, you temporarily learn 1 spell of your choice from any class. The spell you choose must be of a level equal to the number of creatures that conducted the ritual or less. The spell must be a level you can cast, and it must be in a school of divination or necromancy. the chosen spell counts as a bard spell for you, but doesn't count against the number of bard spells you know. Once you perform the ritual, you can't do so again until you start a long rest. And so let's take a look at this. Hour long, creatures including yourself, end of the ritual, learn a spell from any class. Divination, necromancy counts as a bard spell, and you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So they literally still kept it. It's still called Spirit Session. It's the exact same. And Mystical Connection. Your connection to spirits has become semi-permanent. Whenever you use your Tales from Beyond feature, you can roll a d6 and use it instead of expanding a Bardic Inspiration die. You can still use your Bardic Inspiration die for the Tales effects without expanding it. And so, here we go. They changed this one. You now have the ability to nudge the spirits of the Tales from Beyond towards certain tales. Whenever you roll the spirits table, you can roll the die twice and choose which of the two effects to bestow. If you roll the same number on both die, you can ignore the number and choose any effect on the table. Big buff right here. This is a huge deal. I did not care about like being able to use my Bardic Inspiration for free, rather than being able to choose an effect on the table I want to use.
Oh, basically free spells too, so it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and at this point, because when you're 14th level, I'm gonna pull up the Bard thing to see what their Bard die are at that point. Let's see, Bard. By 14th level, here it is. Okay. Your Bardic Inspiration is a D10 by that point. So, by this point, your Tail of the Angel now heals for 2 D10s. Your Tail of the Dragon now does for 4 D10s. Let's see, Tail of the Phantom is a D10 and necrotic damage, and so forth, and it's just going to get stronger because your Bardic Inspiration eventually gets up to D12s. This is so fucking strong. And this is going to be like a must for some people who really want to not only roleplay as the spiritual connection bard, but also just really want to play like a nice bard that has a little bit of like a wild magic table kind of. I want to say this in the same way that the Barbarian had a wild magic table. I don't know. I just think this is like one of those fucking really cool things.
What would be interesting if you took this bard and then gave them the dark gifts where they see spirits, and so the spirits are telling them the stories that they're telling.
That'd be really cool. See, it's exactly like this whole like these work hand in hand, and it's not just these. There's other subclasses that have been brought in books before that are perfectly gonna fit Ravenloft, but they definitely added these two with the intention of this is like a huge thing to add to Ravenloft. We cannot like ignore these, and so that was our bard. We're gonna go ahead and talk back on our overall thoughts on it, but let's take a look at the Warlock. I didn't see too much about the changes in this, so just right off the bat, Warlock spell list, it is the exact same. All right, Form of Dread. A bonus action, you gain a transformation. D10 temporary hit points equal to a D10 plus your Warlock level. Once during each of your turns, when you hit a creature with an attack, you can force to make a Wisdom save. The saving throw fails, the target is frightened until the end of your next turn, and you're immune to the frightened condition. You can transform times equal to your proficiency bonus and regain all uses on a long rest. And
It's still available at first level.
this is still a first level feature.
Yeah, first frickin' level.
Yeah, first level, 1d10 Warlock level, frightened, Wisdom save, you are immune to frightened condition. Yeah. So, and number of times equal to proficiency bonus, refresh on long rest. This is still pretty good. This isn't the same way that you can only like do this feature twice a day. So if your first level party has like 5 encounters, you gotta like pick and choose your forms of dread properly. Let's take a look. Grave Touched. Your patron's power has a profound effect in your body. You don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. In addition, when you hit a creature with an attack roll damaging against the creature, you can replace the damage type with necrotic damage. While you're using your form of dread, you can roll 1 additional damage die when determining the necrotic damage the target takes. C. Don't need to eat, drink, or breathe. When you hit a creature, you can change damage type to necrotic, and you can roll 1 additional damage die when determining the necrotic damage the target takes. Still the exact same. Necrotic Husk, which used to be called Mortal Husk. You have resistance to necrotic damage. If you are transformed, you instead become immune to necrotic damage. In addition, when you're reduced to 0 hit points, you can cause your body to explode. Each creature within 30 feet of you takes necrotic damage equal to 2d10 plus your Warlock level. and you then revive with 1 hit point in your previous space along with your gear. You gain 1 level of exhaustion. Once you revive this way, you can't do so again until you finish 1d4 long rest. Here we go. If you're transformed, you become immune. Drop 0 hit points, drop to 1. Each creature within 30 feet, 1 level exhaustion. Necrotic Husk has just been renamed from Mortal Husk. And lastly, oh, sorry, what's up?
I think the one thing they changed is before it was any creature, and now it's you got to pick which creature.
Let's see, each creature of your choice. Okay, so you're not gonna fuck up your party for this.
Yeah, that was.
The only downside is for the replacing things with necrotic damage. I think you can only do it for 1 attack a turn instead of every attack.
Let's take a look. I think it says when you hit a creature, and this one above, once during each of your turns. So it technically still is unlimited, but it's in the prospect that it's once during a turn, kind of like in the same way sneak attack is, which is entirely fine to me. That's still it's turning it from overpowered from a warlock who like does all these different attacks from either actually no, not even multi attack. I think the only case you would do this for is like Eldritch Blast would be the only one you'd ever get like multiple attacks with. So this allows you, instead of all of your Eldritch Blasts being swapped, it's one of your Eldritch Blasts being swapped to Necrotic. And even then, like, Necrotic just guarantees the creature's dead without saving throws, but magic also can't be declared non-lethal, so a little weird. I'd say for multi-classing purposes, this would make a little bit more sense, but even then, that's at 6th level. So you'd be taking 6 levels into Warlock and then dip to something else, like maybe a Paladin or something. But here, let's take a look at Spirit Projection, which is still the same thing. Still called the same thing. Your body is simply a vessel. As an action, you can project your spirit from your body. The body you leave behind is unconscious in a state of suspended animation. Spirit remains outside your body for 1 hour or until your concentration is broken. When your projection ends, your spirit returns to your body, or your body magically teleports to your spirit space, your choice. While you're projecting, you gain the following benefits. The spirit and body gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. When you cast a spell of the Conjuration or Necromancy school, the spell doesn't require verbal, somatic, or material components that lack a gold cost. If you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, and you can hover, you can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain, but you take a d10 force damage if you end your turn inside a creature or object. And while you're using your form of dread, once during each of your turns, when you deal necrotic damage to a creature, you can regain hit points equal to half the amount of necrotic damage dealt. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. So, suspended animation, unconscious, yeah. Spirit resembles whenever possessions, outside a body for up to 1 hour, concentration. Still choose whether or not you're going to the spirit or the spirit's coming back to you. Resisting to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing. Conjuration or Necromancy school doesn't require it as long as it lacks the gold cost. D10, flying speed equal to your walking speed, it can hover. And once during your turns, when you deal necrotic damage to a creature, you gain half the amount. So, this one, I don't think, for all intents and purposes, the only way that this one really got changed was A, a name change, and B, Grave Touch is now once per turn rather than like at all times. And I think that's just part of a balance thing, right? If Rogue is limited to sneak attack once per turn, I'm pretty sure you're okay with only getting necrotic once per turn as well. I think the main of these two, the one that definitely got like a huge change was the Bard College of Spirits. But what are your guys' overall thoughts on the Warlock subclass?
Yeah, it's always been kind of a heavy hitter, but this one is especially like for battling. This is like frontline Warlock.
What I kind of like is the astral projection thing, because you can either teleport to your projection, so it's really good for like, you know, if someone's in jail getting out, if someone needs to get into a fortified building, they can do that.
This is like I think like, you know, I like these two the two subclasses work really well because one is about like talking to the spirits and being them. Warlock is like, I am the spirit.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be really cool to be like, okay, so you guys need to get into the because especially since there's been a lot of we need to take over this keep situations. You could just have a warlock astral project themselves inside and open the front door.
Well, let's not forget the fact is, let's see. Replicating your game statistics, but not your possessions. Any damage or effect. Hey, quiet you. I think one other thing about this is to also take a look is, let's say you guys are prepping for this big fight that you're talking about, right? Instead of doing it where like it's the front door, it's like, all right, guys, I'm a little bit on the squishier side, so I'm just gonna like, hold on, let me quickly open this. Where it's like, I'm gonna quickly like prep for this big battle by like chilling over here at the campsite, going to sleep, and then, all right, guys, I'm battle ready. Let's go. My body's over here, and I'm pretty sure we're not gonna get ambushed at camp anytime soon. Let's see. Quick little break. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that Lola's not running around rampaging to the house.
Alright.
Feel free to talk about the subclass that we just went over.
Alright.
Sure, Max. When we were doing PvP, did you use the Mortal Husk thing against me?
Yeah, this was the subclass I was using.
I fucking hate it. Oh my god.
I love it because what you get like 3 Eldritch Blasts, so each one gets an extra D10, and then if you crit, that's 4 D10s per each one.
There we go.
Yeah, that's all well.
That's what I'm playing
particular
Sunday.
feature, fucking, oh man. You're like, okay, I'm about to die, so I'm just gonna go explode on you. Fuck you.
I liked it because it was like you can do a lot of damage if you use Eldritch Blast, but also if you die, you risk murdering your entire party, which is why I play it on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
This one is not as bad because you can choose now, right? It's not just an AoE.
Yeah, you can choose now who you want to be affected by your AoE blast.
It's like, oh no, I'm dead. Might as well take out my party too. Don't touch the enemies.
Let's see. Taking a look as to the backgrounds area, they added general background features, which is this section presents optional feature for any background. You can replace the standard feature with one of the ones presented here. So like, you can replace I'm a soldier by I'm an inheritor. An ancestor or mentor's deeds earn them a place in legend. Now it's your turn. You're the clear inheritor of a famed legacy. You've inherited a token from your predecessor, something that marks you as their inheritor, such as a signet ring, signature piece of clothing, or notable weapon. No, I'm in the middle of a stream. Huh? She's gonna wind downstairs. She's gonna wind to be down there. Okay. Wait, you're leaving?
You're eating.
You're
Not
eating?
on the table, like in the
Oh, okay. And additionally, anytime you reveal your legacy, you swiftly learn the local opinion of your predecessor. If locals have never heard of your predecessor, nothing changes. If they have, rumors of your connection spread swiftly, and many locals consider you either a hero or a threat. Heroes are welcome and might easily gain an audience with the local leaders. Threats are encouraged to leave before they invite any danger. Interesting. I like this already. Mistwalker, and so this is explaining the, let's see. The mists whisper to you and guide you through their mysterious eddies. You immediately know if an object you're touching is a mist talisman. You recognize where the talisman originates from if you have been to its domain of dread. This is going to work hand in hand with the Mistwalker dark secret. Spirit medium. After a fateful experience, you believe you're aligned with the spirits that can serve as a conduit for their insights and goals. You have advantage on any arcana or religion checks you make to remember or research information about spirits in the afterlife. Additionally, you begin your adventuring career with a custom-made device for communing with otherworldly forces, perhaps a spirit board, a tarot deck, an automatic writing planchette, dowsing rods, a cup for tea leaves, or a device of your own design. Add your proficiency bonus to any ability check you make using this type of divining tool. Trauma survivor, you survived. Whatever it was, you made it through, and you can help others do the same. Hold on, there we go. I caught you. You can help others do the same. People view you as an expert of the traumatic situation you faced, be it a sort of violence, illness, or otherwise. You're aware of non-magical recovery techniques, common resources, and misinformation, and you know how to speak to sympathetic doctors, clergy, and local leaders, and can convince them to shelter one person other than yourself at a modest lifestyle for up to 1 month. And lastly, traveler. You come from somewhere else, a place where others couldn't begin to understand. Perhaps your home is a unique corner of the land of mist or another world entirely. In any case, you and other travelers have shared experiences. You can find a place to hide, rest, or recuperate among sympathetic trading caravans, itinerant families, or displaced groups, so long as you don't present yourself as a danger. Such groups will hide you from the law or anyone searching for you, though they won't risk their lives for you. Additionally, you can tell whether an object you can see and touch is from your homeland with near perfect accuracy. Alrighty, pretty nice changes up. I don't know why I saw the trauma survivors thing and I thought like fucking Sasuke from Naruto. You don't understand. I live from my clan being murdered except for me by my brother. I'm gonna be so edgy right now.
Yeah, this whole book is edgy.
Yeah. This entire book is like giving you constant paper cuts and scrapes and bruises because of how edgy it is.
I don't know. If I was Sasuke, I'd be pretty edgy. Literally killed his brother, then regretted it the fucking next second. Like,
I like the first one, the one where it's like you kind of get a reputation from the person from your mentor. That'd be pretty good for like Icewind Dale because you're visiting the different towns. So each town would probably have a different view on who your mentor is.
Yeah, that's right. These are just such nice background options, and on top of this, notice how they say you can replace your standard feature. This means that you can take any of these with the background that you have, and now backgrounds have optional features, so you can truly make a background unique with yours if you want to spookify it. Like you're a soldier with a trauma, you're a soldier trauma survivor. You're like the last member of your platoon alive type thing now.
It's like those kids; they wouldn't stop coming.
Oh
Fucking
no,
Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan, ass cream, Lieutenant Dan. I fucking love that. Let's see, horror characteristics. So here are ways to kind of just give your characters more stuff. I kind of don't want to go through the tables. It is just flat out like reading a lot more. But these are just, hey, you want ways to make your characters really feel lonesome, edgy, scary. Use these horror personality traits. Roll 2 from the table. Roll 1 if you're doing an ideal. Roll 1 if you're doing a bond, and roll 1 if you're doing a flaw. Maybe for the horror adventure, maybe roll 2 to make things a little bit spicier. And on top of this, here's one of the biggest things I fucking love that they did to this one. The haunted one. They updated it. Skill proficiencies. Choose 2 from this table. Languages. Choose 2. One must be abyssal, celestial, deep speech, draconic, infernal, primordial, sylvan, or undercommon. And on top of all of this fucking equipment that they give you, Haunted One now has starting currency. And it is the most broke of all of the backgrounds. It is 1 silver piece.
let's go. Actual peasant.
Exactly. It's fucking crazy how they I was like wondering what they were gonna do with this when I saw it in the table of context, and then I saw the 1 silver piece and I'm like, let's go, you're poor, you're worse off than the urchin.
Well, it's the one surviving person from a farmstead
Oh
who
my,
joined a party.
right, exactly.
While every other adventurer's ready to
No,
just like
it-
jumpstart a fucking peasant's life with like 10 gold they have that they don't care about.
Not even it's a trust fund kid who got cut off. That's why they're haunted, and they only got 1 silver.
The traumatic
Oh,
experience.
money.
One time, my dad said no.
character is actually a noble but has the haunted one background because they didn't get their money.
Oh,
Fuck.
so
It haunts me every day.
I also love that they also give you these like harrowing events if you can't really come up with something or need a little bit of inspiration for it. And Heart of Darkness is still here, still the exact same way you'd imagine it to be. But here is an entirely new background that they brought in: Investigator. Two skills: Insight, Investigation, or Perception. You gain proficiency with disguise kit and thieves tools. And your equipment: a magnifying glass, evidence from a past case. You can either choose one or roll on the horror trinkets table. A set of common clothes and 10 gold pieces. And the path to mystery. Your first case influenced the type of mysteries you're interested in. What was so impactful, personal or traumatic? Whom did it affect besides you? Why and how did you get involved? Was it solved? How did it set you on the path to investigating other mysteries? And so here is like, what was your first mystery you either were just involved in? And here's the unique feature for this background: official inquiry. Your experience at gaining access to people and places with to get the information you need. Though through a combination of fast-talking determination and official-looking documentations, you can gain access to one place or an individual related to a crime you're investigating. Those who aren't involved in your investigation avoid impeding you or pass along your requests. Additionally, local law enforcement has firm opinions about you, viewing you as either a nuisance or one of their own. Good solid background. I think this was really just nice, and they didn't have to update the Haunted one, but they did, and they gave us a bonus one on top of this. And of course, here's our horror trinkets table. For fun, let's all roll a D100 and see what we get.
Oh shit, where's that? Oh.
Here you go.
Where's the fucking mouse? Where's the
D100. I'll start things off. I got a 33. So a 33 would get me a music box that plays by itself whenever someone holding it dances.
That's kind of creepy.
I know, right?
I can't fuck with that one. I don't know.
Well, these are all horror trinkets.
I got 79.
This book
Here
is
you go.
too scary. I can't read it.
79. A glass eye with a live worm inside.
It is. Wow, that's...
For the investigator, I thought it's funny. Your one thing from a past
93.
case would be a Scooby snack.
Here, hold on. What'd you say, babe?
93.
93. A journal that has been heavily redacted. Heavily redacted.
A fucking SCP journal.
Oh my god. What is this? No. Even better. You know what this is? Doo-doo. 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 Time to get all Gravity Falls in this.
Oh, God.
I got a 47.
47? Alright. 47 nets you a tiny spool of black thread that never runs out.
That's useful.
I got 71.
71? Alright. And lastly, a paper talisman with smudged ink. Some of these are really cool. I think I like. I wonder what's 69. A fossil of a fish with humanoid features. It's a, yeah.
Humanoid feature?
Yeah, I like the idea. Like, it either has like actual fingers where its fin should be, or it has like human teeth. That would be very unsettling.
One would be more, very
Fish
unsettling.
Yes. Okay, but that at least concludes the first chapter, and that was all player creation stuff. What are your guys' thoughts on just some of the stuff we went through? And maybe what was something that stood out to you guys from the character creation stuff?
I definitely like the dark
Fucking,
gifts.
what's it called? Yeah.
The dark gifts stand
abusing
out
the dark
way
gifts.
more than I expected.
Yeah, and it's like mixing the dark gifts with some of this other stuff is gonna be really nice. Hey, hey guys, you get what is it? You take five teenage kids, give them all the investigator background, give them the pet dog, and there you go. You got the Scooby gang.
I remember when we were talking about the book Tuesday before we started the sesh, and we were talking about like the necrotic one. We were like, from that one video, the clone high one. Where's my cock? He fell off. He fell
Damn,
off.
dude, you are dumb. Whoa, what's my? It's fucking
Where's
nuts.
my cock?
So, this is gonna be the point where we have shifted from what the player tools are to what the DM tools are, and maybe even a little bit more if your character really wanted to make a background with like an arch nemesis. But now let's talk about creating our domains of dread and creating our dark lords. Domains are mocking reflections of the evils they confine. Each has a purpose, being a prison designed to torture a deliberately chosen villain. To devise a domain of dread, you must first conceive its central antagonist and prisoner, its Dark Lord. The following section details how to develop a Dark Lord that contrasts your character as your characters and can serve as a central rival in your horror adventures. This is going back into the D&D how to make a villain area, and I think they will reference that a bit, so we can always pull back. If any of you guys do recall the villains you made, or even just can think one up on the spot, that's also a good way to go. But let's first take a look at these. Sinister reflections. What to reflect? Ask your players which of their characters' personality traits, ideals, flaws, and baws are their favorites. Request at least 2 favorites from each player. Write them down. And if players have been playing characters for a while, ask them to reveal these personal characteristics to reflect who their characters are now. Exaggerated reflections. For each favorite personal characteristic, imagine and write down a version twisted to its extreme. For an example, I idealize a particular hero of my faith and constantly refer to that person's deeds and examples into I am obsessed with my hero of my faith and I must become exactly like them so I can take their place. The more unreasonable, the better. And opposite reflections. For each favored personal characteristics, imagine and write down its opposite. Specifically, a version that compels characters into conflict. For example, transform I idolize a particular hero of my faith and constantly refer to the person as my deeds and examples into I loathe a particular hero and their followers, and I will prove the hypocrisy of that person's deeds and example. The harsher, the better. Use these exaggerated and opposite reflections as inspirations for creating your Dark Lord. By basing your Dark Lord on intimate details drawn from your player characters, you create a feeling that the characters are trapped inside a collective nightmare. Through their interactions with the Dark Lord who mirrors them, characters discover how easily they can become the villains they face. That's key. Remember, guys, villains are people who were just had a bad day and went too far. And the more believable that is, the further your characters start to wonder, are we the bad guys? Can we become like that? And that's how you're making a good villain.
So basically, it's the saying,
What-
live long enough to turn
what was
into
that one
the very
saying?
villain.
Yes.
Yeah, you should die here or live long enough to become the villain.
And so it explains that. So there's a section that we're gonna go look at, and it's called the genres of horror. And you can make your Dark Lord based off your genre of horror, or you can base your genre of horror based off your villain, based off your Dark Lord. Regardless, though, like it's good to think where the Dark Lord was in their past life. Such bullet points really help form it. Where was the Dark Lord before the mists took them? Who was the Dark Lord's family? How was the Dark Lord's family oppressed, oppressive, or both? What was the Dark Lord's childhood like? Whom did the Dark Lord care about? Who cared about the Dark Lord? Who hurt the Dark Lord? Whose respect or love did the Dark Lord crave? And what did the Dark Lord value? Taking these...
Who hurt you?
Who hurt you, you sweet innocent baby? And so... Here, it's very key to remember this, guys. A Dark Lord and the domain is a prison for them because the mist had reached out and took them away. For the gamers, a good thing to think about is that technically speaking, every Dead by Daylight killer is a Dark Lord because the entity or the mist came and took them away from the material plane and dropped them into a prison where they can kill for the remainder of their life. Almost kind of like a prison to them, but they might not realize it. Kind of like in the same way Strahd, both knows that he's in a prison, but also forgets that he's in a prison from time to time. Just think of there's edgy, and there's becoming so evil. The actual world has to take you into your own prison where you're put in there, and this prison's like a nightmare to that Dark Lord that they eventually use as their own base of operations. They can never leave it, and they're stuck there. It's their curse.
Yeah, when I was younger, I read a book, and it's one of those. It's based on D&D, and it has Strahd in it,
Mhm.
and it details the whole. If you're evil enough, the mist goes out and takes you, and if you try to cross the borders, it creates a land for you, and you're stuck in there,
Yes.
like almost permanently. There's very few ways to actually get out of it.
Yeah. I really like the idea of the mist, and it is explained that at least in the Curse of Strahd adventure, anytime you try to leave the mist returns you, because from what I understand, Dark Lords, as much as they're trapped in their own mists, they also have control of what goes on in the land. Like, this is my prison. I can open the doors just like I can make the doors either one way, or I can make the doors completely open to travel through, making it that maybe some Dark Lords can actually interact with each other by going from one mist to the other. Or players are constantly jumping from mist to mist, realizing that, like, we did it, we escaped one Dark Lord. Strahd? Back to the other one. A Serac? Let's go to this one. Ah! Just dealing with Dark Lord after Dark Lord, jumping to their prisons, and the Dark Lords realize what's going on. And it's like, you can make it like where there's a three-way battle, and these Dark Lords have only opened up their borders to these certain domains. But wicked personalities. Detailing the Dark Lord's personality gives them a unique identity that helps motivate them in your adventures. To do this, let's give them ideals, bonds, and flaws similar to like we would give an NPC. So, fatal flaws, ideals. Okay, this is a neat thing. Can any of you guys give me a villain that maybe you've come up with that we've either done in our previous things, or maybe something you've thought up just in your own time daydreaming about any adventure?
Yes, I
What?
have my Oathbreaker Paladin.
There we go. Okay, so Oathbreaker Paladin. Okay, we know their ideals, we know their flaws, but take a look at this. They've added something interesting. In one sentence. Oh, sorry. Alternatively, instead of choosing a flaw, you can choose a fatal flaw. You want to go ahead and roll a d10 and see what you get?
A 9.
9. When I see something priceless or rare, I sacrifice all my beliefs and loyalties to possess it.
What's interesting, that kind of works because, so long story short, he became evil because of the gods turning against him because he's unfaithful.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing he really, for some reason, they cursed him to see every elf as the woman he was unfaithful with. So every elf, he covets them because it reminds him of that woman.
That's crazy.
So that would be his precious thing.
That's really nuts. It's like, it always reminds me of like those things. Like there was like a Family Guy skit where Peter, every time he touched someone, they would turn into Robin Williams. Yeah, I think that's what it was. But it's just with him, it's elves, and like he just wants to collect all the elves, but they all look like the specific one that he lost.
We're talking about villains?
Yeah, we're so they presented a table filled with fatal flaws. If you wanted to take one of these instead of one of the basic ones, do you want to go ahead and roll a d10 and see if you can roll a villain and think of one based off of the fatal flaw?
Sure. I kind of have one in my head.
Oh, that's I don't mind hearing it.
It's actually one of the characters I used to play back when my Pathfinder days.
All right.
That I miss. So.
Tell us a little bit more.
So this was, I've talked about this character a little bit before, like off stream, I think. His name was Quincy, and he was an elf. What class was he in? Fuck, I can't remember.
Mhm.
I think he was just like a fighter or something. I can't remember. It's been a while, but he was one of the most like just terrible, like manipulative, just pieces of like human icky ever. Well, he's not human, he's an elf, but whatever. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And like I guess like kind of set the tone for him. He ratted out someone and got them like they were terribly like mutilated, made friends with them, and then ratted them out again, and they ended up dying.
Mhm.
Um, but he talked way too much, and he had like a big mouth, so that always like got him in trouble.
You know, I can
And
totally imagine.
he
Oh,
would
sorry. Go for it.
reveal too. He would just like he would reveal too much if he like you know, he would talk so much that he would like just kind of lose track of what he was saying, and he kind of reveal something that he shouldn't.
I think one of the fatal flaws that's interesting here that it sounds like it'd be good for your character is so he had people who turned on him in this. And so number 7 is I'm assuming everyone is lying to me, even my most trusted allies, and constantly test their loyalty. Is like a big fatal flaw for this like Dark Lord.
Yeah.
But one thing that I do like is that it's very important about the Dark Lord. No matter what, the Dark Lord is corrupt beyond redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Evil acts. The Dark Powers consider an act to be evil if it's intentional, unnecessary, and successful, and most importantly, if it causes significant harm. Accidents, self-defense, deeds necessary for survival, and forced or coerced actions do not qualify. Early in the character's creation, consider what evil your Dark Lords perform, and revisit these crimes as you develop the villain's other details. Those harmed. The people the Dark Lord harmed need to feel real. Give them names, imbue them with agency. Don't define them as victims or props. The people who survived the Dark Lord's evil might be part of the Dark Lord's history, or allies who join the player characters, or might hold the key to righting the Dark Lord's wrongs. For each character, consider whether they were important to the Dark Lord and how the relationships changed. And finally, irredeemable. Once the Dark Powers take an evil person, that individual's fate is sealed. Before the final corruption, a person can atone, but only if they take genuine responsibility, heal the harm caused, or reform to prevent future harm. Once an evildoer becomes a Dark Lord, it is far too late. Consider whether your Dark Lord has a chance to redeem themselves and the decision that led to their current fate. One idea that I have, it kind of jumped in my mind. You know, Disney, do whatever you will with this idea, but Princess of the Fog is one of my favorite movies, and the Shadow Man is one of my favorite villains. Imagine if the Shadow Man, like this whole like Princess and the Frog 2, whatever, but the Shadow Man now is like an actual Dark Lord, taken by the powers, and now given this whole like I have my own domain, right? Fantasy Shadow Man, or like he just went way too far. He's irredeemable, and now he like has this entire area that's just his prison, where he constantly is like this poor individual who can never have much other than his own little collection of like voodoo stuff. And his whole thing is that like he's a villain that you make deals with him in his domain to get through stuff. It's like imagine like in a video game, this is like an NPC hub where like the shopkeep is like really sketchy and stuff, but he's like the only shopkeep available. And it's like by the end of the campaign, the shopkeep was the villain all along. Not surprising, seeing as how he kind of always gave you weird looks whenever you bought stuff. I don't know. That always just sounds cool to me. Oh, sorry, go for it.
What I like is because the dude that I made basically just took him from the book and made him as a character.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, he does end up getting his own domain when he escapes Strahd. And it copies his actual reality. Like he's in his castle that's been burnt down. Banshees are wailing his sins, but every single time they say his sins, they change the facts. And because he was a knight and he likes order, even though he's evil, it's an endless torment because every single time they get what he did wrong.
Interesting.
which again enforces that while they do have ultimate power in these domains, they're still prisons.
Right.
They're still meant to be tormented.
Like, I think one thing that even they point out in Curse of Strahd is that Strahd's big thing is that there was a lover that he lost, and the woman, her soul constantly, because of the way the domains of dread work, souls get reincarnated here in the domains of dread because you can't leave a domain of dread, especially if the Dark Lord doesn't want you to leave. So Irina's soul, Strahd's original lover, keeps getting like reincarnated, and Strahd always gets so close to getting his lover back, but they always end up either dying or leaving his presence. And so you have the idea of what's it looking for? You have the idea of just a constant prison while it is their it's a prison that they've made home, right? Who knows what they'll rock with it. But when we're talking Dark Lords, it's also cool to think about monstrous transformations. I fucking love this part, especially because of the idea of Dracula from Castlevania, how he actually has like his demon monster form. And so some Dark Lords have features that make them similar to familiar monsters. The Dark Lord might have been a supernatural creature to begin with, or perhaps they gained their form and related powers through their deeds or a curse. Maybe they even gained supernatural abilities via a pact with the dark powers or upon arriving in their domain. Consider whether or not your Dark Lord has a monstrous form. If so, in a few sentences, describe how the Dark Lord gained this form. You might also roll or choose an options from the monstrous transformation table to provide a twist on the Dark Lord's monstrousness. In Dark Gifts, Chapter 1, serve examples of some sort of forms and powers a Dark Lord might possess. In any case, consider how the transformation embodies the Dark Lord's evil. Already, as a side note before I go into this, that whole living shadows, now instead of one shadow, now the Dark Lord controls all of the shadows in his domain. So that's another way to do this. But, continuing forward, monster transformations. 1. The Dark Lord loses their voice. Their words now carve themselves on their skins as lingering scars. 2. Something the Dark Lord stole or used in a terrible crime becomes part of their body. Perhaps a sizable jewel, emblem of rulership, or a suit of armor. And now I'm thinking of Vision's fucking gem popping out of the Dark Lord's head. 3. The Dark Lord's eyes distend from their sockets like a slug's tentacles in the mouths of serpents or metallic cables. 4. The Dark Lord's most painful memories visually repeat in reflections around them or amid illusionary projections. 5. The Dark Lord gains an idealized form, though it's made of inorganic material as others react as if it were terrifying. The Dark Lord's body disintegrates, leaving only an animate heart, hand, gory ooze, or nervous system that must attach to new temporary bodies. Clouds of incense, insects, poison gas, or smoke leak from the Dark Lord's mouth, fingers, or pores. 8. The Dark Lord appears as someone they've wronged, and their true appearance is revealed at particular hours in reflections or under certain lights. 9. The Dark Lord splits into multiple creatures, each representing them at a different time in their life. 10. The Dark Lord retains their memories and intellect, but is otherwise any monster from Chapter 5 of the Monster Manual. From Chapter 5 or the Monster Manual. This is so cool. You could really, totally do the whole, yo, this Dark Lord is really, oh man, he's this reflection, but when he, gets too damaged, when he was brought to this domain, they gave him, a form that better reflects how he should be. You now look as evil as you are. You now look as horrible as you are evil. And so they give you like a Dullahan, or they give you the Star Emissary stat block, and it's so fucking cool to just see all these transformations. What would you guys do if you could transform? If you could give your villain a monstrous transformation when they enter their domain?
I feel like
Feel like what?
I was gonna say like a really scarred up but smaller version of Godzilla.
Oh no. Lizard folk Godzilla, scars all over.
maybe a down version of the Atomic Breath, which is basically Eldritch Blast.
Oh, so what? Like, are we talking like no? You could totally do like a Dragonborn too, right? Like a scarred up Dragonborn that has like their breath attack, but it's like super weakened.
Yeah.
Yes. You know, funny enough, I could totally see the whole like Maleficent, but like, you know, her transformation is like a shadow dragon. So when she actually like gets sent to her domain, she just becomes this almighty powerful shadow dragon that just rules over her domain. Villains, everyone. I love them. Here we go. Upon the completion of a Dark Lord's greatest irredeemable act, the mists drive them, and perhaps the lands around them into the domains of dread. At this point, you should have an idea of who your Dark Lord is, what they did, what form their evil takes, or how they came into the attention of the Dark Powers. Flesh out these details, referring back to how the Dark Lord reflects your player's characters in the section on creating non-player characters in the Dungeon Master Diet as you desire. Now everything in the Dark Lord new changes as they find themselves a prisoner within a domain of their own. And so, creating a domain. There's a little bit of guidelines and stuff, but let's just, very simply, the Dark Lord lurks at the heart of every domain of dread. Everything in their realm is inspired by or personalized to them in some way. Some domains might be dismissal ruins reflective of past glories, or others might be cheery realms where the Dark Lord is forever an outsider, and still others might embody everything a Dark Lord once strove for and be awful nonetheless. Let's see. Here are bullet points. What does the act sound like from a distance or to someone in the next room? I know, right? The Jujutsu Kaisen. Hey, Jinx. How does the act or consequences smell? What colors demand attention from the surroundings, decor, or aftermath? What shapes, symbols, or decorations stand out? What does the light or darkness hide or reveal? Are there sudden or subtle movements one's eyes are drawn to? Who is there? How are they breathing? What are they feeling and thinking? Is it about this scene or something else entirely? Are words spoken? Are they relevant to the scene or unrelated? Where does this take place? When the scene's over, what evidence remains? Or, before this unfortunate scene happens, what warnings were missed or foreshadowed? Once you've considered these questions, write down your answers and review them. Mark or highlight words that resonate or feel creepily evocative. As you proceed through the domain's creation, refer back to these details. And so, these are things that are very important to think about your Dark Lord's domain. Deathless returns. Those who die in the Dark Lord's domain are just reincarnated, hence the Barovia stuff. Endless cycle. No matter what, the Dark Lord can never leave. They are immortal in their own domain. Maybe they can be defeated and then like stop for some time, in which case the borders to their domain are open for a brief amount of time. But regardless, the Dark Lord always comes back. Last gasp. Obstinate ignorance, shocking reminders, and unpleasant hope. This place sucks for this Dark Lord. It is his torment. Technically speaking, Frieza could be a Dark Lord and their domain is the fucking flowers and bunnies and plushies things all over that are just making Frieza sick to their stomach. Like, do you understand the worst part is? I was surrounded by people who were nothing but happy, cheery, stupid. This place sucked. That was Frieza's domain.
His monstrous form was him in the cocoon.
Exactly. Frieza's just stuck in this, like, I hate this so much. Domain overview. Specify locations. These are usually good to specify locations that are similar to Frieza's past. So the domain, while it could, like, let's use Frieza as an example. Even though the domain is happy and friendly, let's make the domain look like Planet Namek or Planet Vegeta, right? Because that really ties into the whole, like, their mistakes and their past are there to haunt them forever. Combine locations and visceral details. So, like, Frieza's own, like, fireball that they summon is, like, constantly ready to hit the planet anytime with Frieza still on it, unable to leave. Or there's just constant reminders and illusions of the Super Saiyans that killed him. And rationalize and normalize. Outline the justification inhabitants use to pretend nothing is wrong. So the inhabitants of this domain should be acting like this is all completely normal. This is just every day for them. many of the domain's inhabitants are creations of the dark powers in the domain, and it's the only reality that they know. So hence why it adds to the whole. This is just a normal day for them. In Barovia and Curse of Strahd, the Barovians are people who just lack souls, and they're constantly. I like to think of them as like just Tim Burton-esque, where they're just like either like extremely exaggerated proportions to be extremely skinny or extremely overweight, downtrodden faces. Even the main characters still look kind of like spooked, and that's a very way to just. This is the world that they've known. There's nothing else outside of this. If anything, your world's the one that's alien to them. What do you mean? What do you mean red, orange, and yellow? Those are colors? That's stupid. There's no such thing as warm. Let's see. Cultural specifics. What is the culture fear? What's the culture considered taboo? Like, is this a world where, like, are you not having sex in the middle of the street? What's wrong with you? Like, everyone does it here, and the Dark Lord's like an abstinent person who just hates it here. Right, exactly. Think of monsters that help fill in the domain. Think of your misty borders that prevent people from either leaving. Maybe the mist move around a specific way that reflects the domain. And then adventures. Captive audience, detail key locations, get your supporting cast well up. This is the Dark Lord's domain. They're kind of stuck here. Might as well make all those side characters really interesting to look at. Entangling the heroes into it. The Dark Lord might instantly sense visitors entering their domains, while the heroes have no reliable means of identifying the Dark Lord. And interactions with the Dark Lords. This is the Dark Lord's home. How do you want him to go about with this? You know? Connections, interactions, and of course, the domain's downfall. Can the Dark Lord die permanently? Under what circumstances might they return? What happens to their domain? Does a new Dark Lord rise? Does the domain permanently dissolve? Can the adventurers escape the domain? Do the adventurers return home or travel to another domain? This would be an interesting way to describe a campaign as, so in order to do it, the person who gets the like it's like a prophecy where the person who the domain's borders only open up for a brief amount of time when a new Dark Lord is placed, and they are only open for one day. In order for a new Dark Lord to be placed, the new Dark Lord is determined by whoever deals the last blow to the Dark Lord. And so it like kind of leaves this whole like, you look at your player character and you're like, guys, one of us has to stay behind. One of us has to become this new Dark Lord, like in this place that's going to be twisted to your own prison. And it gives this whole like character development. Who does it? Players are gonna like avoid trying to get the last blow, but realize that they're gonna cause a TPK like that. So it's just go for it. One of us is gonna become it, and it just, who knows? That can definitely add on to a lot of stuff in your campaign. And oh boy, here we go. The best part: the different genres of horror. There's a bit to see in this. So, as much as I want to get super detailed into all these things, I'm just gonna kind of skim through majority of these. Body horror. Body horror is a genre examples of universal fear, our own failing anatomies. We rarely think about what's going on beneath our skin. We understand that the organs operate in harmony, the heart beats, the lung pumps air, and the gastronomical system labors to support us with nutrients. But we don't ponder the minutiae, like whether embryonic parasites encysst in our brains, or what stage of cirrhosis we might be facing, or if tumors bloom deep in parts of ourselves we hope to never see. When creating an adventure in body horror, use the lack of awareness. Focus on the unpredictability of flesh. Pull from the knowledge that even seeming robust health might be an illusion, that we're not sacred beasts, that we might be incubating feast and hunger or malicious parasites right now. And so, like, in addition, think of these when you're doing body horror. Physical transformations are common and might affect more than bodies. Objects, architecture, and the natural world might be anthropomorphized in terrifying ways. Characters suffer aberrant or excessive growth, whether of organs, discordant appendages, or unnatural materials. Though gore often takes center stage in body horror stories, it's often a side effect of stories about fear of change, distance, mortality, physical harm, disease, or other fears. Body horror doesn't need to be messy. Swapping bodies, turning into stone, or even gaining one's ideal form might all feature in this genre. And the genre has a history of portraying disability as monstrous. Be aware of those tropes and avoid them. If your party is okay with this, then go for it. If not, avoid it. The genre is well known for that. And so it explains, like, here are, like, all these types of creatures that you can commonly find in, like, body horror. Sloth are good examples. Medusas are pretty good examples. Flesh golems are really good. Even, like, black puddings, because who knows if, like, the black pudding comes out of someone's pores and eats them from the inside out. And, like, here's explaining, like, what types of villains would you encounter in your body horror things. I think of all things, let's just go over the villains, because that's definitely what we like most. One of you, who wants to roll me a d10 for the body horror?
I got you.
Alright. Roll me a d10. Let's see who our body horror villain is.
Seven.
Let's see. Sorry, I was, like, making sure about this. Alright, here we go. I realized. So 7. A monarch who feeds their cannibal children no matter the cost. That's...
Yeesh.
You don't understand. My babies, they need to eat everything.
Eat what?
No matter what. I feed them, adventurers. It's what makes a growing boy, right? Nothing
I'd be
like finding...
You're the first to go, and so are them kids.
Right? And it's like, you're like, alright, we did it. We dealt with the dude who's been killing people. Now let's deal with the kids. The child. Where's Daddy? Where's Daddy?
Right there. Daddy left you some food right there on the floor, right there.
And it's like the children turn into like gibbering monsters. Gibbering mouthers, more or less. Like if you see this image here. Where's Daddy?
What this reminds me of is the Cockroach King from Overlord.
Yeah.
Whenever he captures adventurers, he would let his children eat them, revive them, and then let them eat them again.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
That's a body horror right there. So, here we go. I already know someone's gonna roll. I already know one person in particular is gonna want to roll for this one, but it's cosmic horror time, guys. Cosmic horror revolves around the fear of personal insignificance. This genre is predicated to the idea of entities so vast and so genuinely beyond our comprehension that we cannot fathom their simplest motivations. To see them is become lost in their magnitude and the evidence that we have never, will never, and could never matter to the cosmos at large. The genre deals with how alien forces might... Hold on. Wait.
I can't let it out because they're in the living room meeting.
Yeah, I know. My bad, guys. Sorry, food just got here. So, the genre deals with how alien forces might alter us, perverting our expectations and understanding of autonomy, debasing our minds and separating us from what makes us human. Sometimes it is the result of a process we invite. Other times it simply happens. An accident of circumstance we can only hope to survive. However you spin it, this genre involves a loss of control, an absence of autonomy, and the sense of insignificance within an indifferent universe. In addition, consider the following tropes. There is no good or evil, no law or chaos. Be vague. Cosmic horror emerges through imagination, the indescribable, not details. At its best, cosmic horror makes characters feel gradually unmoored from their familiar reality. Cosmic horror is about ineffable forces driven by motivations humans cannot understand. Cults, forbidden books, and strange symbols form the cornerstones of cosmic horror. And, of course, this genre has a history of framing marginalized demographics as monstrous and stigmatizing mental illness. Be aware and avoid these tropes. Of course, goes based on your player group. You probably won't see it on the stream, but I know, to each group their own. Cosmic horror monsters, pretty obvious. star spawn emissaries, krakens, beholders, mind flayers, grells. We're talking aliens, brains in the jars. Kuatoa would fit this as well. And now, Skittles, because I know you're probably the most interested in rolling this. Would you want to roll a d8 for our cosmic horror villain?
Yep.
What would be interesting if you enter this land and obviously there's like a cult established, and you end up looking for the Dark Lord, and the land itself is the Dark Lord.
Wow, I got an 8.
Let's see. 8 would be a spoiled noble who intends to raise a cult to feed to the realm that they want access to.
Sick.
Also, what did you say, Skittles? Skittles? Oh, there it is. 6. Okay. So with the 6, a coroner who believes a message is being rallied to him through the bodies through the bodies he autopsies. Oh, that's crazy. This dude performs autopsies and like there's the bodies are speaking to him. You know what would be good for this? Boneless, the creatures that are just like lacking bones. And it's like you can explain that whatever entity killed these things steals their bones and leaves them with like messages to give to the coroner. And so the coroner believes that they are like the prophet. They are the one who knows what will happen because all the bodies happen to land in their area. All right. This one I could totally see either Mex or Hive rolling for, but we're gonna go for dark fantasy now. Dark fantasy is as much a genre of fantasy as it is a genre of horror. Generally, any tale featuring both supernatural elements and horror themes might be considered dark fantasy, whether it's a fantasy story steeped in horror elements or an otherwise realistic world that features a supernatural terror. Dark fantasy refers to fantasy worlds where grim themes, nihilistic plots, or horrifying elements inform a fantasy tale. Evil dominates a dark fantasy setting, with depravity being commonplace and life holding little value. How dark you want to make your fantasy is up to you, but keep in mind, the roles of heroes ensure places for light in your dark fantasy domain. If a domain holds no place for hope, there's also little call for resistance and meaningful plots. In addition, consider the following genre tropes when creating dark fantasy domains. Good does not always win. Evil individuals with great power and unopposed schemes might be the norm. The lines between good and evil are blurred. Choices involve deciding which outcome is the least bad. Corruption, suspicion flourish among organizations and individuals. Magic and magic items might be rarer or require a bargain or sacrifice to use. And anti-heroes are common. Characters tainted by the world's evil or those who refuse to be considered heroes. I think a good example of a dark fantasy would be Berserk. I love the series, and rest in peace to the author, but one of the best examples of dark fantasy is all of Berserk. Very dark topics to cover, so read it at your own discretion, but the artwork, the gore, the attention to detail to every aspect of that is so fucking good.
What can I roll here?
All right, let's roll a D.
I think it.
D10.
Yeah, D10. What was that, Mix?
I think it does it really well because it has those moments where there's giant monsters, there's death and everything, but then there's also like the hopeful moments, like when Gus and the girl, they're like hugging, or he like takes care of someone, like those little soft moments that give just a little bit of hope.
Yes, it's exactly that. All right, and so with a 7, a member of a cabal or eternal royals who support a war against Mount Celestia, and their immortality relies on the blood of angels.
That is edgy as fuck.
Yeah, we need to kill angels in order to make sure that we're immortal. I like that. There's a lot that goes into these things, explaining villains, torments, settings, adventure sites, and plots. To put into this, Max, would you when we get to it, would you like to roll for our folk horror?
Sure.
So,
Folk horror is always interesting.
folk horror adventures involve traditions, beliefs, and perceptions that are passed down through generations and take terrifying twists. For those who subscribe to hidden traditions, sacrifices to strange god, or placations to lurking monsters are everyday events. For outsiders, though, these practices reveal the subjectivity or normalcy, societal truth, and taboos. Folklore explores fears of isolation, superstition, paranoia, and lost truths. Seemingly idyllic communities, rural reclusiveness, forgotten traditions, and natural cults all frequently feature in folklore adventures, particularly as they contrast with what majorities consider the status quo. In folklore tales, characters often discover that their beliefs aren't as universally held as they assumed, and those beliefs provide no defense against those who reject them. In such stories, characters discover that perception of the way the world works is in the minority as those around them practice traditions beyond their understanding. Alternatively, characters might realize their own beliefs are lies as others reveal unsettling truths. Communities that ascribe to the traditions of folk horror stories are rarely tolerant of non-believers. Outsiders might be given a chance to adopt the community's ways, but otherwise are considered heretics of corrupting elements. Absurdly, their ancient traditions have ways of excising blasphemers. Consider the following genre tropes when creating your folk horror domain. Strange and potentially dangerous traditions flourish in isolated or otherwise private communities. This might mean a rural village, a lost civilization, or a cabal within a larger community. A community's surroundings often influence its beliefs. Their traditions might be naturalistic or related to some sort of ancient lore. Art, symbols, tools, and celebrations and other trappings of belief help make a community traditions more specific and eerie. Community members typically hide their beliefs, whether physically obscuring them or by manipulating others in power. Communities in folk horror stories often serve as a grim mirror of some aspect of accepted society. Beliefs highlighted in folk horror stories might or might not be true. And folk horror communities often have dramatic ways of using outsiders or purging non-believers. And so, for our folk horror villain, I'll need a D8 rolled.
A 3.
Alright. And so with a 3, a night hag that dwells in the dreams of those who drink a special lavender and ergot tea. So let's take this tradition of like every night the eldest of every household must drink this, otherwise the night hag will kill someone from our village. Or sorry, if the eldest does not do this, then the youngest person in our village will die to the night hag. And so it's like, oh fuck. And then the characters go investigate. Alright guys, it's just one night hag. Oh fuck, it's a coven of them!
Would be interesting if they were masquerading as like a tea shop, so people didn't even know why they were being visited.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Here we go. Ghost stories. Ghost stories number among the more psychologically elaborate genres of horror. Only through revealing tales of tragedy and past wrongs can heroes truly bring peace to forces that share their suffering with the living. Ghost stories touch on fundamental issues of human existence, the nature of the soul, the weight fact of mortality, and the burden of ancestry and history. Spirits represent heavily handed instruments of supernatural justice, plunging those responsible for their deaths into a living hell where they suffer for their sins. They also represent grief and our need for closure, lingering in a place until they bring about the completion of the work they hope to accomplish in life. In addition, consider the following tropes for your domain. All hauntings have a deep story, and the smallest detail tells it. A simple locket or a portrait might contain clues that explain a haunting. Personal ties give ghost stories weight. Consider tying the heroes into spirits in ways they won't predict, such as revealing that a phantasmal villain was the hero's ancestor. Heroes are pure-hearted and or unsuspecting individuals whose resolve is shaken by the story's events. Look for ways to test heroes' psychology with your hauntings. Heroes need agency. A ways to put spirits to rest. Once the story is revealed, ensure the way to combat the haunting is clear. Spirits are often evil, but they need not be. A spirit might appear to warn heroes of impending doom. And so for this one, let's go ahead and who wants to roll my d10 for our ghost story villain?
Who
I'm hearing Hive.
shall I can do? Was it a D10?
Yeah, D10.
Got an 8.
The spirit of a former tyrant who demands sacrifices from the village she once ruled. Pretty good. But now, and then, so you got to think to yourself, why does this former tyrant need sacrifices, right? They once ruled the village. Maybe there was something that they left in the village that just was not good. Maybe there was one person who rebelled, and that person has left the village. And so because of that, the village now has to pay for the sins of that one person. All of which are good ways. And the last one that they really emphasize as its own category before explaining the other horror genres is Gothic horror. Gothic horror is about terror within, not without. It shatters the illusion of humanity in a poignant way of by holding a mirror up to us and saying, "Look at what we truly are, and look at what we pretend to be. Under the mask of civility, there is depravity. Under the thin veneer of society, there is wickedness. Under all the trappings of sophistication, are we not all predators or prey?" Gothic horror shatters the lies that we trick ourselves into believing in, the shadows that we, not some distant entity, are and ever shall be the architects of our doom. The quest for perfection leads us to discover our own imperfection. Our quest for the divine leads us to believe we ourselves are gods. These are the themes that haunt stories of cosmic horror. And so here are the tropes to consider. Gothic stories include intense, even exaggerated emotions, romances, rivalries, and life-changing events are common in these adventures. Atmosphere and the sense of dread are the key to achieving a Gothic feel. Set your story in a decrepit mansion, ruined cathedral, or some other foreboding location. Gothic heroes are often virtuous, deeply passionate, or courageous. Find ways for adventurers to test the character's beliefs and morality. Gothic villains are unrepentarily evil, but this shouldn't be immediately obvious. Drop hints about your villain's awful secrets before revealing them fully. And sacrifices feature prominently in Gothic stories. Give characters heart-wrenching choices to make. And so for this, Mex, you're the one person who hasn't rolled twice, so you want to go ahead and roll for us one more time?
What do I have to roll?
This one is going to be a D10.
A 9.
Let's see, a 9. An artist who manufactures terrible accidents to provide inspiration and reference for her art. That's a good villain.
That's like literally every artist in every video game.
Let's see. We can all totally see already the villain that is just... Oh, hold on. Did I see? Yeah. I'm right now seeing that one of our guests is just... I'm just trying to make sure that they're good. Discord crash, lol. Alright. But yes. This one is totally the, oh no, I'm conspiring all along in the background, and I appear like a good artist that the adventurers help. I don't know why these accidents are getting caused, and then, unveil the absolute evil that is the artist. Maybe give the artist the twin personality type deal, right? Or since the artist is could be our Dark Lord, maybe it's just there's so much more behind the scenes that this Dark Lord works with, and maybe there's people that work for them or that want to appease the Dark Lord and do these accidents. And so other horror genres that they explain without giving real tables to are disaster horror, occult detective stories, psychological horror, and the classic slasher horror. So, this is a lot. There are a lot of genres of horror. From all of these, I hope you guys, if you did not know too much about them, you guys were able to be informed, or maybe if you saw one that was your favorite, you were able to see a little bit more as to what makes your favorite thing. Either way, what was your guys' I guess the part that stood out to you from us going through these different genres?
I kind of like the first one, the body horror one,
Mhm.
because it instantly made me think of, okay, so the party wipes out the demon lord or whatever.
Mhm.
The person who, like, whoever did the killing blow, since there always has to be a lord, they just transform into them.
Yeah. You know, you could make it even crazier. Imagine that the body horror like Dark Lord, it's like on top of it specifically being one of those things where the character is going to eventually turn into it. It's like there's a curse that causes that like at the stroke of 24 hours after the character becomes the new Dark Lord, their body contorts and twists and changes into the previous Dark Lord to make sure that the Dark Lord always is there, you know?
Yeah, you could even do it where, because everyone's always like, okay, we killed them, let's loot them. So it's like the first person touches a body, like the body slides over their body and just basically
Yeah.
like swallows them.
Yeah. Hi, welcome back. I was gonna say when we rolled for the Gothic horror, we got the artist who manufactures terrible accents provide inspiration and reference to their art.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but the other horror genres that you miss that don't have tables are disaster horror, occult detective stories, psychological horror, and of course slasher horror. And I was just going through like from these different horror genres that we went through. What was by far your favorite one that we kind of saw going through all of this? Maybe something that like caught your eye because you either didn't know about it or it was your favorite and you got more clarification on it.
Um, my two favorite horrors. Um, I like, I like, I like cosmic horror and I like folk horror a lot, especially because it's honestly kind of easy to combine both.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'd say those, but oh fuck, what was it? My brain. Um,
But it's okay. If you want, you can think on that.
I can,
Rogue, what about you?
I'm trying to remember the
For
name.
me, I would have gone with Cosmic Horror.
Cosmic horror. Everyone always loves the cosmic entities, the tentacles. I like how like if you also look at like the symbols for each of them, cosmic horror is literally just tentacles with stars.
And come on, trying to understand a Cthulhu-like creature, just instantly you lose your mind. Like,
Hmm. And I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this, but babe, would you like to enlighten us as to what your favorite genre of horror that we went through was? She's there, able to talk right now.
I mean, I could talk. It's just loud as fuck.
Fair enough. I don't mind. I'm pretty sure we don't mind though.
yeah,
Well,
I feel like obviously cosmic and fantasy, dark fantasy.
mm-hmm. Cosmic and dark fantasy. You know, I'm glad to hear the dark fantasy one because funny enough, I was gonna say my favorite was gonna be dark fantasy and cosmic as well. It's just there's so many ways that dark fantasy can be applied to everything technically, but when you really hone it in to not be any of them, then you're getting this dark fantasy, and it can be really fucking dark. Hence the berserk that I was saying because it's like when I think berserk, I think dark fantasy. It doesn't. Yes, technically berserk could fall into cosmic horror because of the way those like I'm trying to remember the name of the creatures that Griffith goes towards, or like even folk horror. But when in doubt, dark fantasy is the thing that best describes berserk.
Yeah, I'd say well, I mean, it's like it kind of fathered in, it inspired a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Exactly, right?
like Cloud wouldn't have his Buster Sword, we wouldn't have Dark Souls, which is like
Right.
very
That's a huge
yeah.
thing. Dark Souls is so fucking great, and it has so much dark horror in it, dark fantasy in it.
I definitely have to say, Dark Fantasy because I was thinking about that one scene in Berserk. I won't uh, say the whole scene 'cause it's pretty graphic, but it's how Guts loses his arm
Ah,
because he has to cut it off.
it's also when he
Yeah.
gets his eye gouged, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Like
I know what you're
Griffith's,
talking
like
about.
biting
It's
on his arm. And he's trying to cut it off, and like this is like when Griffith was becoming part of like the God Hand.
yes. Oh man, yes. We know. Anyone who knows Berserk knows that this part is like the most fucked up part of Berserk.
That's like the most dark fantasy shit like I've ever seen in my life.
Hmm.
Except for Schnoz, that's pretty fucking creepy.
I think one of the biggest things as well is like, dark fantasy is good in description, but the fact that like it was drawn, every graphic bit of that entire Griffith becoming part of the God Hand was drawn, is so fucking good and like bad for what it's intended to be.
Yeah. It is super gnarly in the Golden Age movies too. That scene.
Oh man.
Jesus Christ.
But here, I'm gonna go ahead and move on over. There are a lot of domains of dread. I can easily just kind of explain. Barovia, most everyone knows this. It's where Strahd lives, and it's referred to as the domain of the first vampire. Here's your Dark Lord. Here's the genre it follows, and here's any hallmarks and missed talismans. These are the things I think I can at least explain as we're going through them, because there are a lot. Blitzspur, the domain of alien memories, the Dark Lord, the god brain of Blitzspur, genre, cosmic horror, hallmarks, alien abductions, otherworldly landscapes, untrustworthy memories, monstrous experimentation, missed talismans, dream journal, metallic implants, scrap of bizarre technology. Borka, domain of desire and deceit. The Dark Lords are Ivana Brissi and Ivana Dulcinea. It is gothic horror and psychological horror. The hallmarks are political intrigue, poison, and revenge. Missed talismans, drama of sweet-smelling poisons, signed love letter, and tarnished signet ring. The Carnival, the wandering domain of wonders. The Dark Lord here is Nepenthe. The genres are body horror and dark fantasy. Hallmarks are entertainment, fey bargains, misfits, wandering exiles, and the missed talismans, carnival flyer, colorful ticket, strange prize from a carnival game. Oh, I could totally imagine like, come one, come all to the carnival. What carnival? Take this flyer and you'll find out, kid. Sure. What's this mist? Ah!
Psych, you're dead.
Right? Darken, the domain on the brink of destruction. There is no Dark Lord here. It is a dark fantasy and disaster horror. Hallmarks, fractured realm, magical ruins, ongoing supernatural catastrophe. This is what is it? Darken is I'm thinking Majora's Mask. Dark fantasy and disaster horror. It's just in a constant catastrophe, and when the 3 days stop, it just rewinds.
Yeah.
Dementiliu, domain of decayed and delusion. Sadria de Honor, genres dark fantasy, psychological horror. Hallmarks, masquerade, decadent, aristocracy, yeah, social decay, illusions, imposter syndrome. Missed talismans, jeweled or feathered mask, article, well-worn fine clothing, shoe made of glass or gold. Falknovia, domain besieged by the dead. The Dark Lord is Vladeska Drakov, and it is disaster horror. I'll at least show the image that accompanies this one, because it's supposed to be like World War Z status disaster horror. Harakir, domain of the ancient dead, dark fantasy. Anktipot, hallmarks, ancient tombs, desert perils, lost gods, mummies. Halzon, domain doomed by magic. Dark Lord is Hazlik. Genres dark fantasy, disaster horror. Hallmarks, immoral spellcasters, magic ravaged environment, magical experiments, wild magic. Iketh, domain trapped in a dream. The Dark Lord is Xian Cheng. Genres body horror and cosmic horror. Hallmarks, endlessly changing labyrinth, deadly Jianxi, and inescapable dream world. Kalakiri, domain of betrayal and revenge. The Dark Lord is Romeo Vasavadan. Genres gothic horror and dark fantasy. Hallmarks, monstrous leaders, family intrigue, war-torn nation. Cardicus, domain of tarnished dreams. Harkin Lucas is the Dark Lord, with their genres being dark fantasy and gothic horror. And Hallmark's going to be hidden identities, dangerous performances, explosive ambitions, werewolves. Lamordia, domain of snow and stitched flesh. Victra Mordenheim, body horror, gothic horror, immoral science, bizarre constructs, frigid wilderness, and mutagenetic radiation. Morden, Domain of the Haunted, Godfrey, Ghost Stories.
Godfrey.
I know, right?
Whoa.
Hallmarks, Ancestral Curses, Haunted Mansions, Mist-Shrouded Moors, Vengeful Spirits. Rick and Mulats, Domain of Disease, Isolation, Were-Rats. Jacqueline Reiner, Disaster Horror, Gothic Horror, Contagion, Crumbling Infrastructure, Martial Law, Rats and Vermins, and Were-Rats. Tempest, Domain of Nature's Cruel Secrets, Mother Lorinda, Folk Horror, Fey Bargains, Nature's Worship, Royal Festivals, Secret Sacrifices. Valachan, Domain of the Hunter, The Dark Lord's Chakuna, Gothic Horror, Slasher Horror, Diabolical Traps, Hostile Wilderness, and Survival Games. Oh, look at this. This is the domain where Dead by Daylight takes place. Oh, no. And then that was all of the big ones. There are so many other domains of dread that they had to fucking put them on a D100 table and like give you like a quick here are all of them. You know.
I hope there's like a like folk horror and like slash like dark fantasy like one, because that's also a really easy combination to go with.
It is, and I'm pretty sure like I might have like in me saying it all, we might have heard it said there at one point, but
There were so many, like I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, right. It was like, man, when's it gonna stop going through this? And there's still so many of them. There's like me and Skittles counted them. There are over 30 domains of dread. So if you cannot find a domain of dread that is not good enough and you still need to make yours, I will be surprised. But obviously, not surprised, but also kind of like, really, none of these intrigued you that you want to pull from, because making a whole domain is a bit of work that it varies from DM to DM how much time you have to work with.
Some people just can't be pleased, you know?
Right, exactly.
Well, it's funny, one of them, so their miskey was glass slippers, and I was like, Disney, there you go.
Right,
The
exactly.
fairy godmothers are actually just trying to get people into the mist.
Here, I will say something. That was one that intrigued me, so when I did read into it, imagine the Dark Lord is someone who like everyone here is invited to the masquerade, and if she undoes your mask, you die instantly. Like if she like, wait a minute, and takes off your mask, you weren't invited to the ball. No, and you like literally like you get blasted away and crumble to ash. It's fucking nuts seeing these people. And so it explains here are like the different travelers of the mist. Skipping over this, it's NPCs that you can or can't include in your adventures. And here are some horror-based adventures. This is very important Session 0 stuff, but I want to get over to the monsters. The main things that you need to understand when making adventure stuff is content and theme questions. Figure out about general phobias and common fears. How do your characters feel about clowns? How do they feel about needles? How do they feel about spiders? You need to address these things and create an adventure that, while can be scary, is not traumatizing to your players. Scaring your players is one thing, but if you push them away from the game, you have done a horrible thing. You have like made something unenjoyable for them rather than a thrill. And so in Session 0, we reinforce expectations. We establish boundaries, customize your experience, discuss what genre we're working with, discuss the themes in this campaign, create player characters, and choose optional rules. And then from here, horror atmosphere. There's a lot that goes into this: music, lighting, props. It's turning every little bit adds into making your game that much scarier. And so there's so much you can do. Hell, you could technically get one of the spirit boards, either from like our own world where we know is an Ouija board, or you can get one that's exclusively made for this for this book in the Forgotten Realms. But here, I'll cover this one. I like haunted traps because this is a DM tool. So Dance Macabre, haunt bonus +4. This haunt trap affects a 20-foot radius sphere centered on an ancient but pristine instrument. When a creature enters this area, the trap's emanation manifests as the sound of distant, mournful music. A round later, a phantom performer appears and begins to play the instrument for the next minute. While the performer plays, any creature that enters or starts its turn in the haunted traps area makes a wisdom save, or be affected by Otto's irresistible dance. There's another one, Faceless Malice, where you just get your face stolen from you. And they provide a fucking interesting image. Once again, creepy for people who don't like faceless stuff, but it's really fucking cool to me. Icon Lower Aerial Kingdoms, Morbid Memories, How to Go About Survivors, creating survivors. This is an interesting way to make a NPC that's not a sidekick, but that you want to make important, but they're not sidekick material. Survivors only get levels 1, levels 2, and levels 3. They have different stat blocks as either the apprentice, the sneak, the disciple, or the squire. And when they hit level 1 is their stat block. Level 2 is they get any of the one of the following talents, and level 3 is a second talent. And so you realize like this is how you can make like pretty interesting NPCs that aren't going to go too far, but are cool nonetheless. And on top of this, look at this. They also, on top of giving us all of this, they fit in a one-shot, The House of Lament. I would love to run this at some point for like a one-shot group, maybe on Fridays or when one of the groups cancel out. This is going to be a very fun one. I'm not going to spoil too much about this because that definitely is one of those, the DM gets to see. But what a wonderful way to kind of like, let's wrap this up by taking a look at the monsters of Ravenloft. Horror monsters, monsters' origins, notorious monsters, and describing monsters. Emphasize their wrongness, engage all the senses, make it personal. A whistling fiend is notorious for being heard long before it's seen. So here they have it like holding its heart out of its chest. Dum, 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 dum. Monstrous tactics. Let's see, monstrous traits, monstrous minions. And so creating unique nightmares. Here is the one that Mex was stating before, the Bagman. I'm just gonna let this image sit here for a bit before we actually read the description of the folklore that is the Bagman.
My God.
It's pretty fucking wicked. But here. The Bagman is an urban legend about an adventurer who sought to escape doom by abandoning his party and hiding inside a bag of holding. When he tried to leave, though, he became lost amid a constantly increasing number of extra-dimensional storage spaces. Over time, the strange forces of this magical in-between place transformed the adventurer into a monstrous creature. Now, every night, the Bagman slips out of a random bag of holding. If he doesn't find his home, he drags someone back into the bag with him and leaves behind some trinket from his hidden kingdom of lost junk. Some say that if you speak too loudly over an open bag of holding, or whisper, "Follow my voice" into a magical storage space 3 times, the Bagman will come for you. Any character might know the story of the Bagman. What the Bagman is and how you use this urban legend is up to you. Is there truly a Bagman, or is he just a story? If an object vanishes overnight, or if someone finds something that isn't there in a bag of holding, is the Bagman to blame? Is the Bagman just a monster that preys on adventurers, or is he the Dark Lord of his own hidden domain? The possibilities for horror adventures are endless, and nowhere, especially not near an adventurer's gear, is safe. How to make one of D&D's most trusted items untrustworthy.
Also, it kind of answers that question: what happens if you're stuck in a bag of holding?
Right? Technically, by logic of the item, it says you die because there's no oxygen there. But when we take a look at horror takes logic and throws it out in the case of what ifs. And that's what I like about this book. This book, my homebrew world is going to... If I can't explain something, it's probably because I'm using this book. And it's a way for me to, like, you guys are like, how did that happen? I'm like looking at you guys, I wrote the lore of this place, but that doesn't mean now everything here makes sense. There's got to be things that are scary, areas of the world that are just locked off, and like people go around it due to the fact that like there's horror stories that go about going through there.
You could flavor the Bagman because everybody's like, what if we just shove the BBEG into the bag of holding? He'll die, right? Like, no, they live on. They just replaced the old Bagman.
Right, exactly.
It's interesting because you could take a feature that someone would think would be really good, like not having to breathe, because then death would be the better option instead of turning into this creature.
Right? I don't have to breathe. I'm just gonna stick in the bag of holding. All right, and it's like, ah, good. I'm safe in here. You feel breathing next to you. What? Yes. And a finger caresses your cheek and touches the top of your temple as you look over and see this thing right there in the bag of holding with you. Let me out, let me out, let me out. As you try to make your way out and make a strength saving throw. What?
Oh my
You
god.
fail and are pulled deeper and deeper into the bag of holding, into extra dimensional spaces that you didn't even know existed in your own item. You are now part of the Bagman's collection.
Can you imagine if this applied to like any like interdimensional travel? So like if someone used Dimension Door, there's a chance he would be there.
Well, the Bagman is supposed to be for any extra dimensional space. So it's not just like bags of holding, it's also like backpacks of holding. I think there's jugs that also do this. The Bagman exists in all extra dimensional spaces.
I've always,
Imagine someone with the mirror devil fruit.
oh god.
He's just chilling in there.
Here, what was
I've
that?
always wondered about like, well, I've always kind of thought about like extra dimensional travel, like teleportation, all like that. That shit is dangerous. Like, what if something goes wrong and you end up like between the places you're trying to go, and that shit's what's between like the dimensions and all that
Right.
haven't found their way into like the world yet.
So, let's go ahead and let's take a look at these monsters now. Body Taker Plant. Whether hailing from the stars or sprouting from hidden depths, this malicious vegetation known as Body Taker plants seems to become the dominant form of life wherever they appear. These invasive organisms subvert whole societies by consuming individuals and replacing them with these duplicates called podlings. Body Taker plants view themselves as perfect organisms and seek to dominate the land where they grow. To their minds, a world would be healthier and more efficient were they in control. Anyone who disagrees either lacks perspective or is fit to serve only as fertilizer. A Body Taker plant roots deep, spreading near invisible filaments through the soil. Should any of these fibers survive the plant's destruction, the Body Taker plant regrows after a matter of months. Salting and poisoning the soil where it grew destroys these filaments and prevents the plant from reappearing. So it's like, it's the whole like salt, get rid of this place. But whenever I look at this thing, any of my friends who are Rick and Morty people, I keep thinking of the fucking testicle monsters from Rick and Morty that were like in the end of season 1.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah, where it just grabs you and puts you inside. Are you liking this? You know it, baby. Also, the podlings do have their own stat blocks. Oh wait, no, not the podlings, Anakin. Let's see, how many podlings can this make? Lash vine. What's up?
So it's funny because one of the Hexblux things is like they kill plants and stuff. So it could be like this character's region got overrun by these. So that's why they made the pact with the hag. Be able to kill plants and stuff.
But then you realize that the podling, the Body Taker is just a creation of the hag type of thing, and it's the whole like she's the one who's running it all in the background. On top of this, there is apparently there's no limit to the Body Taker's plants podlings that it can control. And Podling Link, the plant can see through and communicate telepathically with any of its podlings within 10 miles of it. This is so fucking cool. Okay. Let's see. Boneless people. Not all animate corpses shamble from their graves. Boneless or undead remains devoid of skeletons. Most rise from the bodies of those who have suffered brutal ends, such as deliberate skinning or crushing. Deathless malice infuses what remains, their husk flopping and slithering in pursuit of vengeance, or at its whims of sinister sinister masters. Slipping through cracks and under doors, these stealthy undead seek to adorn living frames once more, wrapping themselves around their victims and wringing them up to death in their full body grip. Boneless arise in a variety of forms. While the animate skin of a specific creature are most common, foul spellcasters might create these horrors from the scraps of failed experiments. Necromantic slurries, heaps of discarded hair, abaters, charnel concoctions. These origins don't affect a bonus's statistics, but lend it distinct forms. Now I'm thinking of, what was it? My Life as a Teenage Robot. The fucking, when she wants to be human and she's just having the fucking human skin thing that hugs over her. That's a boneless right there. And XJ9 is just a Warforged.
Gee.
Yeah, this is nuts. Brain in a jar. This has been a stat block that's existed for a while, but I like that they keep doing different iterations of it for this stuff. Carrion Stalker. This is the underside of a Carrion Stalker, by the way. Very cute. And this is what it looks like. Tiny little monstrosity. Challenge rating 3. Tentacles, larval burst. It's all the works. Carrionettes. Because who doesn't love your fucking dolls? Let alone your fucking porcelain doll constructs. Death's Heads. These come in 3 different varieties. Either gnashing heads, apparent heads, or petrifying heads. Petrifying heads is pretty obvious. It's probably like a basilisk or a Medusa head. Apparent heads are like psychic heads, so like technically even like a mind flayer, big ol' like Nothix would affect this. And gnashing heads are just decapitated heads if it didn't have the other 2 properties, where it just is meant to bite hard. But you must be wondering why these many heads. Well, Doolahans are a thing now. For the heads that they chop off can turn into those heads. Also, I'm going to put this out to you. Doolahan is really fucking strong if it rolls right, and I think the CR is a little bit underselling it, but still. CR 10. Doolahan also has legendary and mythic actions. So legendary actions, we're all aware. They can take 3 legendary action. They have 3 legendary action points, and they can choose how to spend them with these options. However, though, the Doolahan, if the Doolahan is reduced to 0 hit points, it doesn't die or fall unconscious. Instead, it regains 97 hit points. In addition, it summons 3 Death's Heads, 1 of each type in an unoccupied space. The Death's Heads are under the Doolahan's control and act immediately after the Doolahan in the initiative order. Additionally, the Doolahan can now use the mythic actions, including as an addition to their legendary actions. Mythic actions pull from legendary action points, and they're just adding on to what more he can do with it. But one thing that's crazy is, so legendary resistance 2 times, unusual nature, multi-attack. 2 attacks with the battle axe or with the fiery skull. Battle axe is really fucking strong. 1d8 plus 4 slashing, or 1d10 if you're two-handing it. Plus an additional 2d10 necrotic damage. If the Doolahan scores a critical hit against the creature, the target must make a Constitution saving throw, or the Doolahan cuts off the target's head. The target dies if it cannot survive without a head. The creature that doesn't have or need a head, nor has legendary actions, instead takes 68 slashing damage. So the Doolahan can just nat 20, you fail your con save, your character's dead instantly.
Oh shit, I'm dead.
Right. And let's see, one of its legendary actions is, here we go, Headhunt. It uses 3 legendary action points to do this. The Doolahan moves up to its speed without provoking opportunity attacks and makes 1 battle axe attack with advantage. If the attack hits but is not a critical, it deals an extra 68, meaning that as a 3 legendary action point, it's just running full speed. Chop. There's the nat 20. There's the critical. There's the fail in your con save. Now you're dead. It's Doolahan's really scary, and I would consider who I throw this at. Because of that potential of the nat 20 and the potential of the failure. Because 15 doesn't sound like a lot, but with people who only have, like, let's say a +3 or a +4 to their con saves at that point, that's still like an 11 or higher needed to succeed. Gallows Speaker. Arise from places of mass death or sites where creatures regularly meet their doom. Over time, pain-racked phantoms and lingering souls combine into an entity. So this is like the combination of all the souls that have died. You can even see in its like cloak. Let me pull up a larger image. Whereas like you can see like the souls screaming that form its body. Grimishkas. are the vicious products of mistakes made by novice spellcasters seeking to create life. The results are cat-sized, magically unstable creatures with a taste for the trappings of magic, particularly spellbooks, spell components, familiars, and the like. Grimishkas delight in tormenting magic users, holding vicious grudges against those who gave them life as they infest the walls of spellcasters' homes or surrounding lands. Despite their feral appearance, Grimishkas are cunning creatures. They might imitate the sounds of whimpering children or wounded animals to coax victims into tight quarters. While they favor attacking spellcasters, Grimishkas are opportunistic hunters and lash out at anything they think they can overwhelm or just get a bite of. Grimishkas have an unstable relationship with magic. Spells cast near the Grimishka might rebound onto those nearby or cause the monster to explode. Its scaly chunks rapidly reforming into duplicate Grimishkas. These spontaneously created swarms can rapidly turn into a single annoying Grimishka into a chattering, magic-reflecting wave of teeth and claws. So, not too much to look at here. AC 12, 10 hit points. Pretty low stuff, and its bite does a D4 plus 2 piercing plus an additional 1d6 force. But it has magic allergy, once per day. Immediately after a creature within 30 feet of the Grimishka casts a spell, Grimishka rolls a d6 to see how it reacts. If it's a 1, each creature within 30 feet of the Grimishka must succeed a con save or take a d6 of force damage. 3 or 4. Grimishka surges with magical energy and regains a d6 hit points, or a 5 through a 6. It explodes and dies, and one swarm of them instantly appears in the space where the Grimishka died. The swarm uses the Grimishka's initiative. And so now you've turned this CR 1/8 into a CR 2 creature with limited spell immunity. It automatically succeeds on saving throws against spells 3rd level or lower, and attack rolls of such spells always miss it. So that's fucking nuts. Swarm attack's pretty obvious. Its bite now does 3d6s plus 2 piercing, or 1d6 if the swarm has half of its hit points, plus an additional 2d6 force, and reactions. Spell redirection. In response to a spell attack roll missing the swarm causes the spell to hit another creature of its choice within 30 feet of it that it can see. You have a spellcaster in your party that doesn't have spell levels of 3rd or higher. This is not going to be fun for you guys if this thing accidentally spawns into more of them. And now for the fun of it, let's make the players fight 3 of these. It's like, they're just cute little things. Why do they all multiply? John Cheese are pretty cool. They are the Japanese. They're another vampire variant, but more on the Japanese style. I want to say they're more akin to whites than anything, though. They can change shape. They can consume the energy of people. If you die because of this, you rise as a white at the end of the John Cheese turn. And if the white slays a humanoid with its life drain, the white transforms into a John Chi 5 days later. So it's like this is like a self-duplicating creature that just makes whites, and those whites turn into John Chi's who make more whites out of people. And Lu Gerus, these are super werewolves. Hit points 170, AC 16. Condition immunity is Charmed or Frightened. Challenge rating 13. Blood Frenzy. If you do not have all your hit points, all of its attacks are with advantage. 2 legendary resistances, and it can regenerate up to 10 hit points at the start of each of its turns. On top of this, the only way you can stop this regeneration is with silvered weapons. No fire and acid is going to stop this regeneration. Multi-attack. 2 attacks. 2 with its longsword, or 1 with 1 bite and 1 claw if it's in dire wolf or hybrid form. Bite, claws, longsword, they all do good damage. And a bonus action is the ability to just change shape. Legendary actions. The 1 legendary action is to swipe, doing either a claw or a longsword. The 2 legendary action one is to move up to its speed without provoking opportunity and make a claw attack, or 1 longsword. And the 3 legendary action is bite. Where it automatically transforms either into a direwolf or hybrid. And on top of this, the bite also has a DC 17 con save, or you are cursed with Lu Geru Lycanthropy. Pretty high DC for a very intimidating one. Because unlike previous Lycanthropy, where you can just do remove curse or wish if they are born that way, in order to remove this Lycanthropy, you must must kill the original creature that causes, aka the Lugaru. And only once it's slain, a remove curse spell cast during the night of a full moon on any afflicted werewolf it created forces them to make a con save. If they succeed, the curse is broken. They return to their normal form and gain 3 points of exhaustion. If they fail, the curse still remains and the target automatically fails any saving throws made to break the curse for 1 month. It is a really intense way to put lycanthropy on a player, by like a nearest miss of the Lugaru as the rest of their party was wiped. So this character joins the new group, the current group, and the new group has to like realize they eventually need to kill this Lugaru to help this player not become a fucking murderous puppy. Necroc Icors. It's an undead that's made of purely blood. Look at how fucking cool it is. But I like these more. I like Nosferatu so much. Nosferatu is just the savage vampires. Regeneration, multi-attack. Let's see. If the target hit point maximum is reduced by an amount equal to the necrotic damage taken from the bite, they regain hit points. If the target dies, its hit point maximum is reduced to 0. A humanoid slain this way and then buried in the ground rises as a Nosferatu after 1d10 days. So Nosferatus are another one of those we make more of us. Priests Obobias. These ones are definitely going to be unique to specific domains of dread. They do offer boons, which are pretty nice. Relentless Killers. These are how you make your Jason, your Freddy, your Michael Myers, where they have Relentless Slasher and Relentless Juggernaut. There's no just specific name. It's like Slasher's Knife, Slice, Vanishing Strike to do jump scares and stuff. They're oddly athletic, perceptive, and good with survival, despite them having pretty okay-ish strength. And Juggernaut. These are like your fucking... I can just totally put Pyramid Head as one of these things. These are just so cool. Look at this dude.
Why he got a bird head?
He got a bird head.
Bird weapon too. Look, it's a fucking shape of like a bird. What?
Yeah, it's a scythe that looks like a bird's head. And then like here's a whole table how to make like your own relentless killer with their own origin and method. Of course, Starspawn Emissary. Technically, I count this as D&D's first CR40 creature, with the lesser being a CR19, and when you kill it or when it decides to unleash its true form, it turns into a CR21 creature with the full hit points of it. So it's like, whoa, 19 plus 21 is 40, mister. That's really fucking strong. Also, the thing I'm drawing for Skittles, I think I'm just going to say is going to be the stat block of a Starspawn Emissary. And that would make the Lich and the Spawn Emissary like a thing. Strigoi. These are Sturges that have been like subjected to transformation spells. And so you can see that these are just like... I think Mex, you and the Monday Boys like encountered Sturges, right? Like the little blood-sucking bat things.
Yeah, the little vampire things.
Yeah, so this is just one of those, but it became a monstrosity because it's actually now like human-sized and such, and it like looks humanoid.
Yeah, I think they're vampires. I forget from where in our world they're from.
Not too sure. It's nice that we get a lot more of these things, and of course, 2 new swarms have been added: swarms of maggots and swarms of scarabs. So now we can have the ending of the Mummy, where like the dude, like the one fucking commoner gets like trapped in a room with all the scarabs that are coming in on him. I love these things so much. Inquisitor of the Mindfire, Inquisitor of the Sword, and Inquisitor of the Tome. More stuff based off of the different domains of dreads. And Unspeakable Horrors. Interesting enough that there are 4 different variants of this, and depending on which variant you have, they have different abilities. But there is Apparent Armor, which is the horror's body is armored in petrified wood, ancient crystal, rusted mechanisms, sculpted stone, or an exoskeleton. Loathsome Limbs. The horror's body boasts spider-like legs, many joined appendages, or thrashing tentacles. Malleable Mass. The horror's body is composed of clot, boneless flesh, shadowy tendrils, or mist, or oozing organs. The horror's body boasts exposed entrails, bloated parasites, or a gelatinous shroud, perhaps because it is inside out. And so this is like the one that they provided us as far as imagery goes, which still looks really fucking cool. Definitely good for your like cosmic horror stuff. And they even got Hex Blast, which is a 7d12 of necrotic damage as a 30-foot cone. This is a fucking strong monster.
Jesus, that shit looks gnarly as fuck.
Yeah, right? There's just so much that I love about this book. And they even point out like how to do the limbs, how to describe the hex blast, because you can make it different types of hexes as well. Beguiling, biohex, petrifying hex, or reality stealing hex. Limbs, vampiric mind flayers. Look at this thing. It's also weaker than your standard mind flayer, which I like. So it indicates that like it's lost. Yeah, it's definitely lost its intelligence. Cause now it's down to like an intelligence of 5. Were ravens are a thing now, so here's a new lycanthropy you can do work for them, and new zombie types. Swarm of zombie limbs. So like here's just a massive like thing of like hands that are crawling your way. Zombie clots, which is a huge amalgamation of all these zombie bodies put together, and zombie plague spreader. Finally, a zombie that actually makes more zombies. The plague spreader releases a toxic gas in a 30-foot sphere. Each creature makes a con save, taking 46 poison. A humanoid reduces 0 hit points this way, rises as a zombie 1 minute later. So that was all of the beautiful creatures. Here's the spirit board that they provide for this adventure, which I think looks really fucking cool. Like, wow, is this such a detailed way? And it's not like the fucking rectangle board that we know from Ouija boards. This is like a whole circle thing. And let's see. And of course, credits. But that was the entire book of Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. What'd you guys think?
I want this to be implemented in any way, shape, or form, and possibly this or next time we do a session. If we can.
I know.
It's just a big old...
More than likely, like, once again, all this stuff, any books that come out are just more fuel to the fire for the homebrew world, and I really can't wait to do so much more with you guys for that. What about the rest of you guys? What do you guys think?
It's pretty dope. Most of it sounds pretty cool.
Yes. Also, I think you're a little low on your mic, Hive. I can barely hear you. Han, is he even talking?
Hold up. Yeah, Hive is talking.
Yeah, I can see you're talking, but you're like really low, bud.
Try leaving and coming back.
Oh, is this better?
There we go.
Oh, there you
Much better. No, I was saying, what'd you think? What'd you think of the book?
It's pretty crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool, honestly.
Right. I cannot wait for this. There's gonna be no worry about a poll for today, as tomorrow we're gonna be discussing growing up gaming. A little bit more of a personal talk, probably, where you're gonna see us going over like what it was like growing up in a society of gaming and such. So please don't miss out on that tomorrow. But
we do live in a society,
right?
Yeah.
But it is with that we're gonna go ahead and give it a call for today's stream. Thank you everyone so much for tuning on in. It's always a pleasure having you all join and watch us. And if you enjoyed today's content, please be sure to support by following and subscribing on Twitch. For any more stream notifications, possible participation, and content polls, feel free to follow my Twitter and join the Undead Legion Discord. And for any VODs such as today's episode, you can always find them on the XenoLich YouTube channel. Be safe and have a good night, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Good night,